Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Hey, this is Jonathan, the flight instructor in Iowa.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Hey, good. Hey, I just was calling in to check in with the previous caller that got called in about the flying. I had to call in and make my comment on a couple things. Definitely can do a test with airplanes, and I'm definitely in for doing that. If anybody comes up with something they want to test, we've got access. We've got the airplanes to do it. I'd love to do something. So if you guys come up with any good tests, let me know. And we can definitely navigate without the GPS. Totally doable, not a problem. Yeah, 100 miles, 200 miles, whatever we need to do.
That's crazy. All right, then.
Dude, you're rich. You have private jet, I'm sure. Come on, let's do this. But,
no, we don't need a big fancy jet. We can do it with a small airplane, and we could. Yeah, the cost wouldn't be hardly anything at all. We can work that out, and I'd be happy to do it. I think it'd be great to get a test out there. I've been thinking about doing it, but I just don't know exactly what to test on. I mean, I see it every day, so it's hard for me to I don't know what people want to see,
Where do you stand right now? You still believing in the globe, or do you think...
No. I just... both myself and my girlfriend are flight instructors, and we teach people to fly, and we were both, just in the last 2 days, we both came back from separate flights with students, and we both came back and we're like, it was a really clear day, and we both said to each other, wow, we can see so much that we should not be able to see. We can see wind farms that are 50 miles away that should be, if we did the math, it should be 500 feet below the horizon from where we were viewing them at. We're not up really high, we're only 1,000 feet off the ground, and we see it all the time. It's obvious, and our instrumentation stays level, so no, it's
amazing.
It's pretty clear to us.
I know, I want to go to Amazon and see if there's a gyro because that's
well, that's our gyro that we have in the aircraft. I mean, it's there, it's working. It's just the problem is you can't get any information, and I've tried to track that down as well. I did a bunch of research trying to find the how the gyros are made, what the internal component, and you cannot find anything out about them.
They're just perfect devices, and that's why they always show you exactly where you're at, but they don't take into account, hey, I should be upside down on the ball, or hey, I'm on sideways, or
exactly. Yeah, they have no correction for gravity or anything like that. They're independent. So
start here and come back here.
And I've gotten calls like crazy from other pilots. They'll call me, and I've talked with lots of other pilots, professional pilots, airline guys that are retired out, and they all admit to it. They all say, yep, they said they've seen the same things, and they said the problem is you're never going to get a current airline guy to admit it because risk of losing their job. Yeah, I'm self-employed. I do my own thing. I'm not afraid to say what I want to say about it, but yeah. So I mean, we all believe it. All my friends that are pilots, we all agree on it. It's not the airline guys that are retired out, and they all admit to it. They all say, yep, they said they've seen the same things, and they said the problem is you're never going to get a current airline. We all believe it. All my friends that are pilots, we all agree on it. The airline guys that are retired out, and they all admit to it. They all say, yep, they said they've seen the same things, and they said the problem is you're never going to get a current airline. We all believe it. All my friends that are pilots, they all agree on it.
Y luego, además, aquí aparece como si fuera, no sé cómo le llamamos a esto, un anexo, un añadido, algo que se cose.
Sí, exactamente, un parchecito, que me recuerda a una persona muy especial.
Explícate, si la Tierra desde las alturas se ve...
plana y estacionaria, se ve.
¿Plana? ¿Sí? ¿Y no tiene algo de achatamiento? ¿No se ve no? Eso es cuando ya nos vamos a la órbita, ¿no?
La curvatura se ve cuando la cámara es de ojo de pez, como la que llevaba el que se tiró de Red Bull.
Sí.
Ahí sí que ves la curvatura, pero si la cámara es una cámara normal, se ve todo recto.
¿A cuántos permiten volar el máximo de altura?
Normalmente volamos a lo máximo, el techo del avión es 41.000 pies, que son 12 kilómetros 800 metros o algo así.
Sí.
Pero normalmente volamos a 35, 37, que son
altura no se ve
10...
La curvatura.
No, hombre, no, según... a ver, yo he volado con el Lear a 47.000 pies, con el Lear del jet privado, que son unos 13 kilómetros 600 o algo así, y tampoco.
¿Tierra plana?
Sí, ¿por qué? Porque al margen de la forma geométrica de la Tierra, que puede ser un geoide, un globito o efectivamente plana y estacionaria, la tendencia de la Tierra plana es buscador de la verdad. buscador de la verdad más allá de lo que me digan en Antena 3 o en Telecinco o en 4 o en la 1. Yo quiero saber qué hay detrás de quién paga la tinta, de quién paga esa iluminación,
amigo.
quién está detrás. Entonces, ellos no te lo van a decir nunca.
Claro.
Nunca te van a decir que han aprobado la nueva ley de seguridad nacional. Esto no te lo van a decir, ellos no. En el cual, si el de Estado declara un estado de emergencia, pueden hacer usufructo de ti y de tus bienes. Seguro. Si te lees el BOE todos los días, sí que lo vas a leer. Pero hoy en día, muchachos, el BOE está complicado de que no lo leamos. No me leo el Marca, y eso que gana Nadal, me voy a leer el BOE.
Cierto. Oye, por tanto, el baloncesto es una evasión.
Es una evasión, es un altavoz y es mi bebé. Yo lo cuido e intento cuidar el aspecto deportivo en el cual delego en mi director deportivo y en mi entrenador, el aspecto de gestión, y intento cuidar mi bebé todo lo posible, desde el diseño de la camiseta hasta los aficionados que tenemos en Instagram, que es Básquet Frater, el trato, nos piden camisetas para nuestros aficionados, etcétera, etcétera. Y todo a pulmón.
Yo creo que ya el hecho de haber creado el club ya es motivo de victoria.
Efectivamente. Sí.
Con 45 años, ¿cómo se mira el futuro?
Uy, es que yo tengo muy claro que hay que disfrutar de cada segundo ahora.
Es decir, estás en las alturas, o más allá de las alturas, pero con los pies muy bien puestos en el suelo, en la tierra.
Yo creo que
Por
sí.
eso la tierra es plana.
Y estacionaria. Y estacionaria.
Qué bueno, qué bueno.
Been a military brat all my life. However, I've been in the industry of aviation for the last 21 years. And I became an FE somewhere around 15 or 16 when I really started looking at conspiracies. I looked into Benghazi because I happen to work on government contracts abroad, overseas. But I've been in aviation for 21 years. Anything from helicopters to aerostats to big birds, little birds, fighter jets, things with engines, no engines, big blades, little blades, compressor blades, which, by the way, that one's not a hoax. Jets do not run only on compressed air. Contrary to popular belief, it takes compressed air in a blended ratio of air to fuel to drive the now heated gas and rotate the compressor blades. This has been a topic of discussion between FE and, not everything's a hoax. Coriolis effect. With that ties into, obviously with no spin, around the axis points that they say exist at 23.4 conveniently, 66 off the 90 degrees, right? Everything ties into 666 with NASA and all the BS scientists. Our aircraft have things called ADIs, attitude direction indicator, which gives correlation between the aircraft housing or the shell around the gyro itself. The ADI is nothing more than a gyro that will always reference level. I don't care what any pilot says. I don't care what any mechanic tells you. There's a reason that pilots have one book called a Pilot Operating Handbook, and there's every other book, right? From structures to avionics to wiring diagrams to the actual components that make up these systems. That is a standalone system. The ADI does not lie. I don't care how cold it is, how high you are, and some of these guys are pretty damn high. It doesn't matter where you're going. It doesn't matter where you've been. It doesn't matter where you are over the realm itself. As far as ADIs, in every aircraft, it references the level horizon or references sea level always. There's no way that you can convince somebody of sound mind that if you take off from New York and immediately flip upside down, now your housing or your ADI is referencing upside down to you because you're upside down. It's right side up. It cannot deviate off level. It doesn't matter how much fuel you got in your tanks. It doesn't matter if you're a helicopter or an aerostat or a fighter jet. That gauge will always reference level. It has to. Because otherwise it would be a poor reference. And if you could manipulate it, why would you even have it in the airplane or your aircraft? But if you go and take off 2 miles away, do a barrel roll, you're now flying upside down. At what point does that gauge show you back right side up? A half a hemisphere away? Is that what we're led to believe? Is that what we're supposed to believe? At what point does it right itself if you never flipped back over and continue flying level? You see what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous to think that that thing compensates for curvature in straight and level flight. Interesting side note, I worked on aerostats for several years, and I always ask people who try to bring up gravity, well, how come my 4,000 pound, 74,000 cubic foot aerostat isn't getting pushed towards the ground? It weighs more than you do, which you believe gravity is pushing you down, right? Because these are some dense ass people. But how come the aerostat's not getting driven into the ground? It weighs more. It's definitely larger than the size of a house. It's more than size of most houses. So why isn't it getting driven to the ground? Well, that's because it's displacing less weight than the atmosphere or the medium that it's in. And I try explaining that. I don't know how many times you've probably posted something on this. I don't know how many times we're going to have to post something on this. But every time that little kid lets go of that helium balloon and starts crying. But truth be told, I've been to many countries, done many things, all things aviation. I can say with absolute certainty, and I can attest, the plane does not dip nose down to follow the curvature of the Earth, ever. Matter of fact, most planes have an airfoil that are 3 degrees nose up in straight and level flight. And the reason that is simple. If the nose of the aircraft was at 0 degrees or level flying through the air, then it would porpoise, right? It would be quite violent because some of the air would go over the nose and some of the air would go under the nose. And it would cause that nose to go up and down, which is literally like a porpoise or a dolphin out of water. And that's exactly what would happen. So the wings are designed, when they are level, the nose is 3 degrees nose up. The fact, 3-dimensionally, it is 2-dimensionally. It is the amount of deviation that's required for you to come back inward. If you are walking east from north, meaning you are going around north equidistantly, and you walked in a straight line east 1 mile, you're going to have to deviate 8 inches back to the left to get back on the equator, right? Look at it on the flat Earth map, and clearly it makes sense. If you walked 1 mile in a straight line east, you have to deviate 8 inches after each mile to stay on the equator. The 8 inches per mile squared is a real measurement, if in fact we consider the equator to be a real place, a real location, ever, always.
Is the Earth flat or spherical? It is flat.
The Earth is flat or no?
I know it's flat.
You know it's flat? How long have you been flying for, you said?
Over 30 years.
My name is William Andres Lozada. I am a commercial pilot. I make videos for the internet, and this is one of the questions they most ask me on social media. Watch this video until the end to know the opinion of a commercial pilot about the flat Earth theory. Today from beautiful Puerto Buenaventura, a city on the Pacific, I share my thoughts. I always questioned many things in life and always wanted to go beyond. I believe in the saying that goes like this: a lie repeated 1,000 times becomes reality. That's why I decided to hear the opinions and thoughts of millions on people who have interesting theories about flat Earth. Even if you don't believe it, there are millions of people who do. Why is that the famous image of the blue marble has so many modifications in graphic design? Why don't they just take a photograph of the entire Earth from a satellite or something that is in space? Take a photo that shows how it really is. Why do they have to make corrections, graphic designs and CGI? The aircraft I fly can fly up to 25,000 feet altitude. I never saw any curve from up there. Also, as a passenger, I fly at more than 35,000 feet altitude and I don't see any curve either. During the cruising phase I fly straight and level. I never dip down the nose of the aircraft to adjust for the curvature of the Earth. That's it. Okay? Here, never making any correction. Straight and level. The horizon always straight and level. Dipping the nose is not required at all.
¿La Tierra es plana o esférica? Es plana.
The Earth is flat or no?
I know it's flat.
You know it's flat? How long have you been flying for, you said?
Over 30 years.
Soy William Andrés Lozada, piloto comercial, hago videos para internet y esta es una de las preguntas que más me hacen en redes sociales. Quédense al final para ver la opinión de un piloto comercial acerca de la teoría de la Tierra plana. Hoy desde el bonito puerto de Buenaventura, una ciudad del Pacífico, he traído un pensamiento y es que siempre me he cuestionado muchas cosas en la vida y siempre he querido ir un poco más allá. Pues yo soy fiel a la frase que una mentira repetida 1000 veces se vuelve una verdad. Por eso he decidido escuchar las voces y pensamientos de millones de personas que tienen teorías interesantes acerca de la Tierra plana. Y aunque ustedes no lo crean, son millones de personas. ¿Por qué la famosa fotografía Blue Marble o la canica azul? ¿Por qué tiene correcciones de diseño gráfico? O sea, ¿por qué simplemente no le toman una fotografía desde un satélite o desde algo que haya ido al espacio, le toman una foto y nos la muestran? ¿Por qué tienen que hacerle correcciones de diseñadores gráficos o por computador? El avión que yo vuelo puede volar hasta 25.000 pies de altitud y yo nunca he visto la redondez de la Tierra desde ahí. Y también he estado como pasajero a más de 35.000 pies y tampoco he visto la redondez de la Tierra desde ahí. Cuando voy en fase de crucero, que voy recto y nivelado, nunca he tenido que corregir bajando el morro del avión para seguir la curvatura de la Tierra. ¿Esto por qué? Ok. En ningún momento toca hacer la corrección a recto y nivelado. El horizonte en todo momento está recto y nivelado. Así no toca hacer correcciones de nariz abajo.
My name is Joshua Silva. I am a licensed commercial pilot and flight instructor. I have had a lifelong love of aviation and aerospace, and when growing up I even fancied myself an amateur astronomer. I would drag my family and friends, anybody I could, to every air show I could possibly find in Northern California. I was the only kid you knew, or anybody knew, that knew the various components on aircraft, spacecraft by heart. I absolutely loved anything to do with flying or space. But my love of aviation and aerospace never stopped. I continued studying, had an entire library full of aviation books of various military and civilian aircraft, military history, every aviation campaign and theater in almost any war. I studied religiously, and it was just out of pure passion. Later in life, many years later, I decided to become a pilot. As strange as it may sound, it hadn't occurred to me to become a pilot up to that point. I just simply loved aviation and aerospace, but I decided to become a pilot, and I began attending a prestigious flight academy in the Midwest and attending university at the same time, and to gain a degree in aeronautics and aerospace. Shortly thereafter, I began flying twin turboprop aircraft out of Northern California for several nonprofit organizations, and years after that I found myself flight instructing for various small flight schools, both in California and in Arizona, and then on to large academies that trained for the airlines and even some military flights. Shortly thereafter, I began flying regional business jets, and that's when the story of me finding the topic of flat Earth started. Could the Earth actually be flat? I began to see opinions and arguments that seemed logical, but I heard several arguments, which I now know were most likely disinformation, easily disprovable in the aviation world, but there were some that stuck with me. And so, myself being the way I am, I ran quickly, metaphorically, to my old textbook, and I opened my old textbooks, found them, unpacked them, cracked them all open, and even downloaded brand new copies in PDF form offline of all these books to make sure that nothing had been changed. I thought for certain that I knew exactly what compensation pilots are trained while flying to compensate for the spin or the rotation of the Earth, for instance. As far as falling around a globe, that I assumed in my mind would be an aircraft's angle of attack. But upon more study, I found that not to be true. The angle of attack being the angle between the aircraft's flight path and the relative wind, which is something that pilots are very familiar with, and it's the idea that an aircraft has to be slightly pitched up, essentially to stay airborne, or a surface of that aircraft has to be pitched slightly to create a difference in air pressure to hold the aircraft aloft. And that is assumed, or was assumed at that time by myself and other pilots, to be the compensation one would make for falling around a globe while flying, period. But upon further research, I found that this was not the case, and it was not even mentioned anywhere. This compensation was not mentioned anywhere I could find in any resource that I had gone to flight school with. And they were extensive. There were many, many books, especially as one progressed towards the commercial flying side, especially elective courses, especially if you're going to university as I was studying aerospace, then you would assume, and I had assumed, that this was calculated for.
Again,
the big one that is oftentimes quoted is compensation for Coriolis effect while flying. And this is something I'd even taught my students about, and it's always assumed to be correct. We just assume. We're given the narrative from a young age, and everything is built upon that assumption, upon that theory. And so I thought I had the silver bullet. Coriolis effect. We always calculate for that. Well, as I began to look through the books and to look into the calculations given for Coriolis effect, the narrative began to fall apart even further. I began to see things I didn't notice when I was in school, such as Coriolis effect is actually never calculated for, but is assumed to be a part of wind correction angle. Wind correction angle is one of the many calculations pilots of all kinds make while flying to correct against winds in whatever volume or section of air they're flying through, which it could be from any direction, and you're flying through it, so you have to compensate a certain angle into that wind to hold a straight line. And then the big one is given after that. Well, GPS auto corrects for it. And that sent me down yet another path. GPS auto corrects for it. If it's a satellite-based system, how is it correcting for spin if it's also spinning over the same body? And why are there large gaps in GPS coverage over large oceanic bodies? Do they just turn them off? It's just not worthwhile? There have been enough aviation accidents at sea, very far from shore, that would say otherwise. And if you gave the American taxpayers, the ones funding these satellites that are supposed to track aircraft, the information that, well, we're just shutting them off because it's not worthwhile, those 3 or 4 jets full of hundreds of passengers just have to use other navigation methods such as dead reckoning, which is basically using a stopwatch and guessing to the next checkpoint, essentially. If you were to tell them that, they would be infuriated. So that could not be the case. Coverage was a problem. Even over large and non-densely populated areas, you would lose GPS coverage, even in jets at times. So this began to unravel the thread of satellites and satellite timing, and the fact that many reels of footage show these satellites being launched by balloon rather than by rockets. How the concept of these rockets doesn't even work to make it past the atmosphere, much less leave something in perfect geosynchronous orbit. I actually had the privilege of working a short time at a satellite manufacturing company in Northern California. Got to see the assembly and participate in the assembly of satellites, space-based satellites, or so they are said. There would be small bottles encased in these structures that were encased by another structure. The small bottles were the fuel cells. These fuel cells were incredibly small, smaller than a diver's tank in most cases, much smaller. And this was supposed to be all the fuel that the craft needed to run and operate, as most are not actually electric, they're becoming electric now, and sustain itself in a perfect orbit by just small bursts from its engine or its propulsion system. The narrative began to fall apart. I would continue studying and finding that what I fear to be true is reality. That we have been lied to about just about everything. Upon researching military history and then military training and speaking with military gunners in both the Army and the Marine Corps that I know personally, I would ask them about Coriolis effect. And it was always assumed that, yeah, we compensate for the Earth being, a curve, that it would drop. We calculate for the Earth curvature. But even upon asking and having them look into their materials further and my own personal study, again, it found to be an assumed truth with no actual basis in reality, that they would calculate bullet fall based upon angular velocity, drop, friction, amongst other things. And curvature was supposed to be just corrected along with it, just like flying, wind correction angle corrected for Coriolis effect.
Pregunta controversial. Hay un debate ahora en YouTube especialmente, en el que las personas se cuestionan que si la curvatura de la Tierra es observable o no es observable.
No, a las alturas que vuelan esos aviones.
Usted no lo...
Siempre.
No va haciendo ningún ajuste, va como si fuera parejito,
sí,
sobre terreno.
No, pero sí tiene unos 2 grados más alto que normal, depende de lo que del peso del avión.
Ok, la nariz va hacia arriba.
Sí.
Pero no tienen que buscar la curvatura. No, vuelan como si fuera sobre un plano.
Sí, es lo que trata de hacer el avión.
Bueno, muchas gracias.
Con mucho gusto. Ok,
que siga bien.
Pues,
hasta luego.
Good afternoon.
Hey John, how are you?
Pretty good, sir. How's everything there?
Everything's good, can't complain. It's kind of windy out. Looks like it's going to rain. But anyhow, I've been hitting these, questions regarding the flat Earth. People trying to get information out of me, and I'm not too familiar with the subject. Help me out?
Yes, sir. Copy that. I'll give you a couple of relatively quick examples that you can also research and elaborate as well. Number one, I'm a pilot, and when I used to fly out of Long Island towards Nantucket, bottom line here is they're going to give you some type of formula for every 100 miles. They're going to give you some type of XYZ per kilometer squared. Keep it very, very simple. Every 100 miles would be approximately 1 mile. 1 mile is 5,280 feet. The actual number is 6666, which is of Luciferian origin, which really reveals who's behind all the conspiracy and cover-ups, for everything. But the bottom line here is a very simple formula is for every 100 miles, you have 5,280 feet, which is 1 mile in curvature. So 100 miles equals 1 mile in curvature. Now, if I'm going, let's say, hypothetically, from Long Island to Nantucket, that's about a buck and a half. It's about 150 miles. So it should be 1.5 miles. So let's just take a mile. So with aviation, you fly at certain altitudes, whether you're flying in a easterly, a northeasterly, to a southwesterly direction. So hypothetically, I'm flying easterly at hypothetically about 4,000 feet, which is an even number. If you add 5,000 feet of curvature, that would be around 9,480 feet, which does not exist. So the bottom line is pilots know every 100 miles that you travel, you would be dipping the nose down to compensate for 1 mile, which is 5,280 feet of curvature. So there's the proof right there that there's something very fishy with this globe Earth situation, because scientifically it doesn't matter. Also, there's a semi-classified naval communications device. When ships are communicating ship to ship on the ocean, U.S. Navy, semi-classified laser communication NAVCOM device, which also does data as well. So if they're communicating with ships 70 miles, 100 miles or more, like I said, every 100 miles is a mile of curvature. So it wouldn't work because lasers operate line of sight. They operate in a straight line. There's no curvature to the laser. So the bottom line here is the naval NAVCOM classified, semi-classified system that they use to communicate ship to ship, that operates on a laser, and if there was curvature, anything over, like I said, 100 miles is 5,280 feet of curvature, and the ship's diameter is nowhere near that, which you know. So there's another example, the naval NAVCOM communication device. Also, there's a woman, female KLH pilot, KLH Dutch Commercial Airlines. She got fired from her job a while back for questioning this issue. Now, they didn't throw her around the company, but they gave her like a desk job, so this way they kind of keep her around and quiet so they can control. But she's a very sane and rational woman. If they ask her, what happened, and she starts talking, it's going to raise serious questions. So we got the KLH pilot, we got the laser NAVCOM, U.S. Navy. We've got my personal experience flying from Long Island to Bangkok. That should be at least 5,280 feet of curvature, added to the 4,000 altitude average while heading easterly. So there's something very wrong there. The numbers don't work. The Globers, definitely scientifically, we're looking at flat earthers have some very, very, very valid points according to those three examples.
Thank you.
You got it, brother. Anything else?
No, that about answers my question. Quite a lot to take in. I've taken some notes. Thank you. Thank you again.
You're welcome, sir. Any questions? I'll be here for a while. Contact me anytime.
All right. God bless.
All the best. God bless.
How did you first get into Flat Earth? How did you first start looking into it?
Yeah, well, actually, I was just since 2003, I was looking into the business because my son, he's now 13. He got very ill from the. He had a how do you call it? Brain.
Like
injury.
Yep, sure.
So that's how I got, onto the internet at 2003, and I was reading about a lot and figuring things out.
How long have you been in the airline industry?
Actually, I got my license in '91. So I've been with the company that I'm at now, which is actually the best in Holland. There are not so many, but they're a very good company, and I'm with them for 22 years now. Yeah.
And then started going down conspiracies, saw a couple things that had to do with flat Earth and gyroscopes, and thought, this is sort of interesting.
Yeah.
So did you start poking around inside your company? Did you were there
that's what I did.
Friends of yours?
Yeah, so I was just, because, there are lots of things that we are taught about, the spinning Earth. And I told to my colleagues, because of course you think about it, but then you just discard it, about how it is possible that the atmosphere spins with the globe, and then of course, that might be gravity, and then it says, then you have to, it has to spin faster at a higher altitude because there's no gradual difference.
Right.
So I thought, that's kind of strange, and also the speed at which the Earth should spin around the equator. I thought, that's almost the speed of sound, so that's kind of strange. And then also when you fly, let's say, from Johannesburg to Amsterdam, we don't have to account for the difference, and also not because it spins then at a different rate, and it doesn't also, we don't also have to account for the difference in altitude that it spins. So I thought, this is so strange. And now, actually, I told the other day to a stewardess, because she has an open mind, and now I have to work on the ground. I said, actually, I'm a little bit ashamed of, believing all this shit. And I should have, questioned before, because my IQ isn't actually good enough to, question how does a gyroscope work actually, because it does not, measure the gravity.
Everybody in the flat Earth community has had to relearn a lot of scientific premises just so we could catch up and then tear it down. And gyroscopes is one of them. Actually, gyroscopes helped us a whole bunch. I didn't know how gyroscopes. I mean, we've seen, of course, and we we spin things around and we kind of get the feel for them. But how they relate to the Earth spinning, most people don't know. So anyway, sorry, continue, please. So you were looking into the gyroscopes, and then what?
Yeah, and then of course I also saw the movies from Eric Dubé about Rising Horizon.
Yep.
And I thought, well, yeah, that's true. And we do fly at 40,000 feet, 41,000 feet sometimes. And of course, I've been. This is now almost a year going on that I was, that I started looking for the curve, let's say.
Yeah.
And of course I couldn't find it, and I saw the horizon, rising with us, and it was flat wherever I looked, and I thought, well, shit, why did I didn't see this before? And then I started questioning in the cockpit, do you know that the atmosphere spins at the same speed as the speed of sound at the equator? And then I get this strange look on their faces, whenever I would ask something like that. But it bothered me so much that I thought, well, this has to, go out there. And I thought, well, you can just discuss these things, but obviously not. We were with the three of us in the cockpit, and the captain, he was in training, and the instructor was on the jump seat. And we had a night stop in Zurich, and the last day that we actually flew from Zurich to Amsterdam, they said, well, did you actually mean those things that you said about flat Earth and everything? I said, yes, I do. And they say, well, we think you are retarded. And
they didn't actually say that, did they?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and you are, how do you call that? Labiel. I don't know what that is in English, actually. But it's like you are mentally unstable.
Oh, no, that's
like
pretty, yeah. So you're kind of, so who said this to you?
That actually said the instructor said that to me. He said,
really?
well, actually, yeah, because I did not go out to dinner with them, because I could already, sense that there was no match between the three of us.
Right.
So I did not go out with dinner with them at the night stop. And he said, well, we had a discussion between the two of us about you, and we think you are, retarded, but then the Dutch word for that, and mentally unstable. So I said, well, if you think like that, and we only had like 20 minutes left or so, I suggest that you come sit in my seat, because I knew he was, an instructor, and he could sit in both seats, because you're, as an instructor, you need to be able to, sit in both seats. So I said, well, you better sit here, because I'm not going to fly any longer with you guys.
So what happened? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So they landed, and I sit in the jump seat. And I said, well, guys, we really get a lot of training with our company about how to communicate amongst each other, because lots of errors happen when the communication in the cockpit is not working out. So we get a lot of training about that. I said, well, guys, all the things that we discussed yesterday, because I don't know how the topic came up, but we discussed about those trainings, about the things we shouldn't do. You both did. Like, we call that OMA. The O is for oordelen, that is to judge.
Uh-huh.
The M is for mening, that's opinion, an opinion. And A is for aanname, and that means to assume.
Uh-huh.
So I said, well, those things you both did without even questioning me. You just,
Their natural reaction was to think it's like, flat Earth is ridiculous, so we're going to judge you right here and right now.
Yeah. So I did not even have, you did not even ask me one question. Like, I mean, I was educated the way you were. I mean, but you could have asked me, well, Lydia, how do you come to such a strange viewpoint or whatever? You could have asked me some question instead of just throwing me out.
Mm-hmm.
And well, the instructor said, well, I'm sorry about that. And actually, he got tears in his eyes, so I was a little moved by that, because I thought, well, yeah, okay. I came on quite strong, actually, because I was mad, of course, and he also was relieved, because I said, well, when I stepped out of my seat, I said, well, I will see you in the office, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because I assume, because we have to write about these things, if things like this happen, I thought, well, he's an instructor, he's going to write about this. So I thought, well...
And when you mean write about it, you mean our term would be like filing a report.
File a report.
So at this point, you're thinking of filing a report against your co-pilots, your fellow pilots for...
Well, he thought I was going to do that, because that's what I said when I stepped out of my seat earlier. I said, well, I think I'm going to see you then in the office.
Yeah.
Because I assumed, because he's the instructor, that he would, he was the one who was, trashing me. So I thought, well, he will probably write about it. So after the landing, I said, well, he asked, he was scared. He said, are you going to write about it? I said, well, no, I'm not going to write about it, but I'm going to go straight to the doctor's office from the company, and I'm going to ask for some support in this. So then he was really relieved. Well, I'm not going to write about it either. I said, well, do whatever you please.
So both of you mutually agreed not to file a report on each other about an argument that had to do with flat Earth. Probably a good thing at the time.
Yeah.
So then you went to the company physician, the company doctor, and you have more or less did you request to them? You said, look, I don't think I should fly anymore because I don't believe the Earth is a globe.
Well, actually, I called in sick.
Okay.
And I made an appointment, and then I went to the doctor, because I thought, well, I have all the evidence there is. So he said he didn't even, because I started to explain to him how I got to the point of thinking flat Earth, because it needs a little bit of an introduction, I guess.
Oh yeah, you can't just come out and say it and be like,
no.
Like metaphorically, or what are we talking about here? So his response was,
okay, Lydia, I'm going to send you to the psychiatrist.
Yep, I was waiting for that.
Yeah, I will hold your medical license, and you cannot fly for now.
So technically, are you still working for the company?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still working.
You haven't been suspended without pay or anything like that?
No. That's not the thing they would,
But did you request that you didn't want to fly anymore, or did they say you shouldn't fly anymore? And I mean, obviously you're not flying at the moment.
No, I said I cannot fly at this moment because I'm tired of all the lying.
Okay.
And I'm just exhausted, and I'm, I feel humiliated and everything, and I think we should look into this. I mean, I'm
and when was this? When was
all in this? But they just They just don't. They're not open-minded.
Oh, hey, look, pilots are. It's a tough. I mean, I've talked to a handful of pilots already, but this is got to be one of my favorite stories because, well, and sorry, I got to back up a little bit. When did this happen?
This happened in March.
Okay, this happened in March. And after that, did you see a psychiatrist? The company psychiatrist?
Yeah, I had to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And?
They made me. So I went. I had to go 2 times.
Okay.
And the first time, the psychiatrist explained that I had a right, a recht van aanhouden, and that means that you don't, you get the last say in whether the report goes to your company or not.
Oh, I got it. You get the closing remarks. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can send I can read the report, and if I'm not,
happy with it.
Yeah, happy with it, then I can say, well, no, don't send it.
Oh, really? That's way more flexible than what we have over here. Seriously, a psychiatrist could literally put you in a jacket and lock you in a room, and you wouldn't have much of an opinion. But anyway, so go ahead.
So I sat there, and I want to, explain a little bit how I came where I am, and he was not interested. He said, well, no, I don't want to hear all those things. I just want you, because, with my son and everything, it's kind of a long story, but, I wanted to explain to him how I got where I am, and he just was not interested. He said, well, Lydia, you are being a little bit naive in, trying to convince this guy. Why aren't men a little bit more courageous? I think I'm always more courageous than everybody I meet. It's just, I don't know. I don't understand. Maybe I'm not that, I just moved to a real nice house and everything, and I thought, well, I might have to say goodbye to this within a year because I don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
But okay, I'm fine with that. I mean, who cares?
You are a brave person, Lydia. There's a lot of people that wouldn't have. But at the same time, you're in a unique position because pilots, they deal with that perspective all the time. Most pilots don't know what to do with the information even when they get it because of their conditioning. So yeah, when you're in the cockpit at 40,000 feet, you see a flat horizon, and you see it every single day you fly. But there's this weird conflict that happens. It's like, well, it's a globe because I'm told it's a globe, but I only see flat. So you know what? I'm just going to land the plane and try to live my life as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So you went to the psychiatrist a couple times. Did you like the report he wrote, or did you not?
Well, the second time that I went, he said, well, Lydia, you don't even have to start talking because I'm not interested. I think you know where this is going. I said, well, yeah. He said, well, I will. I think it's called delusional or something like that in English. We have another name for that in Dutch. So I said, well, okay. I said, you didn't even have a glance at anything I'm here for, and nope. He said, well, nope. I am aware of conspiracy theories, he said. And he said that chuckling, so he was laughing. And I thought, okay, well, whatever. So I was actually pissed. And I went home. And while I was in the train, because it was a train ride of about 2 hours, I thought, you know what, I'm not gonna even wait for the report, because what's going to be in there? Nothing that I need to know.
Right.
So I emailed him right away when I got home. I said, well, dear Mr. Huppel de Pup, I don't need your report. Don't even bother writing it, because I'm gonna,
You're gonna veto it, basically. So then what? So you go back to work? So at that point?
No, because they have my medical license, on hold or whatever.
So technically, you're on medical. We call it medical leave. So you're currently at that time you were on the ground, not getting up in a plane again because they said there's a medical issue.
Yeah, correct. Okay. That's still the case, and now I'm working on the ground because they say, well, okay, you cannot go into the cockpit, but I think you can do some other work. Oh, you should not. Can you just cut that one out because I don't want the company name.
Got it. I will not say your company name. I'll cut that little part out.
Yeah.
So they grounded you, but they didn't want to fire you.
Yeah, that's not the way they go about. You know, they just don't fire you like that. I mean.
So you haven't flown since March.
Correct.
Do you have any anticipation that you will be flying?
I don't think so.
Now, is that a voluntary thing? Have you been pushing it, or are you like happy with your desk job and you're like, I'll just take the desk job for now?
Well, you know, I found a job where I can meet all kinds of people, but colleagues, and they asked me, why are you not flying? So now I have an opportunity to say, well, I have different beliefs than most people, you know. So actually, I'm figuring things out, and actually, I want to wear T-shirts, you know, with a flat bird on it, and just to go to my ground job and spread the word. Just spread the word.
You are one of the bravest people I have ever met. I mean that. That's amazing. So now, because you're grounded, you're now doing the ground jobs in the airline industry. People ask you, because once they figure out who you are, it's like, wait, why aren't you flying? You tell them?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh yeah, I'm not flying because of, and you probably describe what's happened to you over the last 6 months.
Well, I've just started like 4 weeks ago. So, and I only have to come in 2 times a week because I work 50%, so I don't have to go there very often.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to meet my colleagues there, and you know, get to know them. But I just started. So the last time I was there, I said that I believed that, and then the moon landings were fake. And actually, there are 2 other pilots also, which have some issue why they have to work on the ground because there's something medical, and they laughed at me.
Oh, I can imagine they would laugh at you.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to ask you some pointed questions here. Like, one, if all of a sudden they came back and they were desperate and they needed a pilot, would you jump back in, or is this something that's like, yeah, you know what, it doesn't really mean much to me anymore?
No, it actually didn't mean a lot to me anymore already for a couple of years, and that had to do with also the fact that I'm a woman in a man's world, and
got it.
Yeah, sometimes you just think, well, I'm really open-minded. I mean, that's why I, you know, got into this in the first place. But also, when you are working with people who are totally not, there is hardly any connection,
right?
And I miss that. So I actually have more fun with the stewardesses when we are somewhere than with my colleagues in the cockpit. So
nice.
Yeah, so I don't really miss it. The other day it was really windy. I thought, well, now I miss it because then you can, you know, practice your skills a little bit and do some real flying, and that's the part that I miss. But the whole life around it, I don't miss. No.
So I wait a minute. So do pilots secretly like bad weather, or is this just you? Because wind scares the hell out of people. Just so you know.
I know.
But you thought it was fine because
when it's not too bad. Yeah.
Because
we do like that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
What part? The landing on a windy runway type thing?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
because it's a challenge. You were just bored. It's like, oh come on.
Yeah, that's true.
Normal landings are so boring that pilots just kind of hope for something, you know, like an icy runway. Hey, is there some ice on the wings?
No ice. No.
Not ice, but wind.
That's so tricky. The wind is okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but you wouldn't like deliberately try to fly through some dark clouds or anything.
No, it's not like that. It's not like courageous in that way. No, that's not the way to go. No. We're very careful. I'm a very careful person. My children always say, "Well, Mom, you drive like a snail. Come on, hit the gas."
I can see that. So when you see like a 20-mile-an-hour crosswind coming in on the runway, you're like, "Ooh, yeah buckle up." This is going to be
Yeah,
fun.
2020 is nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
even-
hardly anything.
I'm sorry. I did a lot of business travel, so now that I know this is good. This is good stuff. Here, so you've been in Flat Earth now for what? Less than a year officially.
Yeah, less than a year.
Less than a year.
November. Yeah.
And you've watched a whole ton of videos and read a whole bunch of web pages.
Yeah.
Is there and you probably talk, I mean, it doesn't sound obviously like you're shy about talking about this with people. For you as a pilot, or in this case a grounded pilot, what was but you flew for a lot of years. What was the biggest thing for you? What, because everybody, I could talk to 20 different flat Earth community members, and they'd all have a different answer to this, which is, what is the one thing that flipped in your head where you were, half asleep on the couch? It's like, holy smokes, that's it.
The gyroscopes. It's just the gyroscopes, because I thought, well, it cannot work. It cannot work on a globe. No,
can't. Because
and also the speed of sound at the equator. Those two things that.
So the the spinning of the Earth, the atmosphere going along with basically the Coriolis effect. You're not adjusting the flight path for the Coriolis effect, and you guys are going from north to south a lot. Yeah. And in fact, you were saying you were flying to Johannesburg from the Netherlands?
Well, before I flew the 737, I flew the MD-11. So then we went to Kenya, not to Johannesburg. That was just an example that I gave you, but I've never been there.
But Kenya's fine. That'll work.
Yeah. So
somewhere in the middle of Africa, you guys are flying from the Netherlands, and not only did you not have to, because that's a question. In fact, I might as well ask you this, since we have a hard time asking pilots. There's a whole bunch of videos out there where people are trying to ask pilots. When you know how the gyroscope works, and you know how the curvature of the Earth works. So from a pilot standpoint, do you ever see any instruments, or do you have to set anything in the cockpit that constantly adjusts for the 8 inches per mile squared? Or every 50 miles you would have to adjust about 1,700 feet?
No, nothing.
Never. No,
never. The only thing is that I was thinking about, but I also saw that I cannot find it anymore. That's really a pity. But we have this inertial reference system, and it has like really advanced gyros, the laser ring gyros, and it has accelerometers on it, and you can, when something goes wrong with that system, you can reset it, and you can have the heading back.
Yeah.
And but then again, I saw this this video on YouTube that a guy asked the company, I think it was Honeywell or something, about resetting and putting the right coordinates in. And this guy said, well, it doesn't really matter. Don't put anything.
Yeah. In fact, I know that one, because that was a 777 pilot. I read that one. That was me.
Okay.
Where the 777 pilot.
Okay, so I saw it with you. Yeah.
Yeah. He messaged me, and he said the gyroscope compensator that's below the gyroscope is made by a particular company, and this company supplies everybody, and it's a NASA subcontractor. And he went to an airport, and it broke, because pieces break every once in a while, and it broke, and they asked for a replacement before he could take off, and they said, you know what, just compensate for it manually. And just because he knew what about flat Earth, he decided to ignore that and just make note of it. And when he was flying, and he basically took a 6-hour trip, and he never had to. And he took notes of what the degree should be, but he never compensated for it. And so then he was going, okay, what does this thing actually do? If I didn't have to, I just flew 6 hours and it wasn't even working. And when he tried to, the thing that got me was when he called the company. Pilots, as you may know, are considered very, very wonderful people in the airline industry. So they can go to airline companies. They could walk into Boeing, and Boeing is like, let's give you the tour. They wouldn't even talk to this guy. They were like, it was like very, very close-lipped about what these gyroscope compensators would even do. And so, and this is a 777 guy that really wanted to. He's still flying, but he's going, I don't know what's going on out there, but there are companies involved that they may not know exactly what's happening, but they're up to no good. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Wow. So let me ask you a couple of other quick questions, and then you can ask whatever you want. Which is just for the record, when you were looking out through the cockpit, did you, before you got into Flat Earth, did you even think about the curve, or was it just one of those things that was in the back of your head? And then when you found out about Flat Earth, did you look out the window differently?
Actually, I never thought about the curve. Never. Maybe that's strange, but I really
No,
did.
why would you, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Now I think it's strange, but
but then when you got into it, when you were looking out the window, did it look completely different to you? It was like, holy smokes.
Yeah. Then I saw how flat it was.
Couldn't see. We have a saying here. I don't know if it's the same over there, which is you couldn't see the forest for the trees. You know, you just could not. It was like, didn't even occur to you. You looked out that window all the time for 20-something years.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you think it's flat out there? You see it's flat? It is flat.
Hola, mi nombre es Héctor Requena. Soy terraplanista desde el 2016. Este tema lo descubrí accidentalmente, me agradó mucho y desde ahí lo empecé a investigar. Desde ahí me di cuenta de lo que está pasando en el mundo. Yo fui aviador, me gusta más la palabra aviador que piloto. Yo volé con mi papá desde niño, él era piloto de la Fuerza Aérea Mexicana. Un tema muy curioso que me pasó a mí fue el empezar a conocer cómo funciona el giroscopio. El giroscopio está diseñado para volar sobre un plano, sobre un terreno plano y una tierra que no se mueve. Todos estos temas me llevaron a seguir investigando. Estamos tratando de invitar a la gente a que no se cierre de mente a estos temas, ya que si no nos damos cuenta de lo que está pasando ahorita es por lo mismo, porque la gente está cerrada, se cierra a pensar fuera de la caja. Yo invito a la gente a que por lo menos sea un poco más abierta de mente hacia estos temas, porque la verdad es que esto está muy fuerte, se vienen tiempos muy difíciles ahorita y debemos de estar conscientes de que el sistema nos está manipulando de una manera muy grande. Entonces pues vamos a ver qué pasa.
I woke up to the truth of the flat earth, shape of the earth, as an engineer and a pilot. So I've studied engineering, physics, 3 different ways: basic physics, electric physics, and construction physics. And also as a pilot, as a rotary wing pilot, that is helicopter pilot, I studied aeronautical physics as well. So I can cover and discuss just about any factor of flat earth. Not that I'm any smarter than anybody else, but I've studied quite a bit of factors that analyze shape and motion of just about any object. That's physics, also aeronautical physics, and principles of flight. I can tell you this: airplanes fly straight and level. That's even an aviation term, straight and level. Airplanes will fly for hours at the same altitude, never dipping their nose down to follow the curve of the earth. An aircraft on a 12-hour or even 18-hour flight from Portland, Oregon to Seoul, Korea, that would have that aircraft starting at one point and then flying so far around the earth that it's
flying downwards with its nose vertically downwards, and then starting to go around the curve of the Earth so that the airplane is now flying upside down. Would have to make that kind of a flight path on a globe, which is, it's such an absurdity. So that being said, I come into the true shape of the Earth, the flat Earth, as a skeptic, like most anyone else. I'll tell you my story. My buddy told me about this. He said, Rob, you need to learn about the ice ring. You need to learn that the Earth doesn't move. This globe is garbage. And I laughed at him. I said, are you kidding me? I'm not even gonna look into that. And he said, that's fine. He said, that's fine. You don't have to look into flat Earth. But until you do, he said, until you do look into flat Earth, you will remain a slave of the Matrix. And interestingly enough, at this point, this was more or less November, December 2015. I had already mentally resigned from the U.S. military for 3 years. I had already resigned because of Benghazi. I realized, and I saw for myself, I'd been working with U.S. as an Army officer, working for State Department for a good 10 years. And so what I did, I turned my physics awareness, I turned my studies into analysis of the shape of the Earth. Radar is simply another form of radio transmission. Radio includes anything within the range of the electromagnetic spectrum. Electromagnetic spectrum, also known as light. Radio is the transmission of light, whether it's visible light or radio waves which are not visible. When it comes to radio transmissions, there must be a transmitter and a receiver. There can be a reflector or a transmittal unit along the way. However, in the end, there's got to be at least transmitter and a receiver. And in the case of radar, radar transmits a signal and it bounces off a reflector and then it comes back to the receiving station. Or it can go to other stations if they're set up in the network properly. Long story short, radar emits a signal, it bounces off something, and then it returns to a receiving unit, and the receiving unit maps that reflection accordingly. If there is no reflector, then there's no return signal, and then the object does not show up on the radar. For example, it's off the screen. Notice, there's no curving around anything. It goes out in a straight line. Radio signals always travel in a straight line. So the transmitter sends the signal out to the target, bounces off, and it comes back in a straight line. Radar cannot travel over the curve, and hence radar is dependent on line of sight, direct beam from the transmission to the target. It reflects and it comes straight back. There is no curving around anything, thus is radar. The fact proven from multiple points that there is no Coriolis to the motion of the Earth. And I'm speaking from a pilot's perspective, also an engineer's perspective, because I obtained a degree as an engineer before I went to flight school. So I'm both a pilot and engineer at once. So, number one, there is no rotation of the Earth, proven by the fact that a helicopter pilot can hover the aircraft indefinitely, motionless, above a single point of the Earth. If the Earth were spinning, as soon as that aircraft left the ground, the Earth would spin out from under it. Now, somebody may say that the air of the atmosphere rotates along with the Earth, which is one of the most absurd concepts imaginable, because if that were the case, then all wind would travel with the Earth. There would be no alternating wind currents when we know that the jet streams fly overhead, clouds move in multiple directions overhead, and a kite flying over the stationary Earth. The fact that a kite flies because of wind passing through, that proves that the Earth does not. That proves that the air does not move in unison with the Earth. Number two, airstrips do not rotate away from a landing aircraft. Anybody who's seen a pilot's view when an aircraft lands, well, the aircraft lands to a motionless airstrip. If the Earth were rotating, the pilot would have to turn to the angle at which the airstrip is rotating away and land at the speed of the airstrip, which is absurd, simply absurd. Airstrips do not rotate away from the aircraft, and on an east to west landing strip, if the aircraft is landing to the west, the airstrips do not land moving towards the airplane. That's insanity. Okay, simply stated. I've done many of them personally. I've flown more than 1,070 hours in both helicopters and airplanes. And I will tell you factually that aircraft meet their checkpoints, they take off, they meet their checkpoints, and they land exactly as planned on a flat, stationary map. No pilot, I say again, no pilot has ever accommodated for the rotation of the Earth when planning flights and takeoff to checkpoints along the way, and then landing. Pilots can plan so well that they can take off and land hundreds of miles away down to within 30 seconds of their planning because the Earth simply does not rotate.
Yes, absolutely. Number one, there is a rate of descent. A rate of descent, and we can all imagine. These are simple concepts, and I'd like to reiterate that in all of my technical discussion, in any of our technical discussion, it needs go further than, meaning it doesn't, we need no more complexity than 10th grade science, 10th grade math, Pythagorean theorem, 10th grade physics, 10th grade chemistry, basic chemistry. This is chemistry 101, college level, 10th grade chemistry at the high school level. One can imagine if an aircraft is flying at elevation 35,000 feet, well, it has to descend to land on the ground. Well, it's still flying in the air. It's not going to point its nose straight down and go straight to the ground. No, it's got to gradually descend from altitude down to zero. Well, we call that rate of descent. A lot of people don't talk about this. Now, I'm bringing up a new topic to Flat Earth, and I'm really bringing up a new topic to the average pilot. The average pilot does not talk about rate of descent. And how do I know? Because I've talked with several pilots, and they cannot quote their rate of descent. Why do I know it? Because I memorized Army Federal regulated rate of descent, which was 500 feet per minute. For 18 years, I memorized 500 feet per minute. That's for my first 2 years as an Army aviator, I memorized 500 feet per minute is the standard rate of descent. Well, that's for landing. Okay, let me reiterate. That's for landing to a full stop when the airplane wants to land to the ground and stop. That's 500 feet per minute. But we, in the Flat Earth community, we know that for an airplane to fly around the globe, the supposed globe that is, there's a rate of descent associated with 8 inches per mile squared. So if we do the math, the 8 inches per mile squared at the average, assuming an average airspeed of 500 miles per hour or that's really a ground speed, but it's moving through the air at 500 miles an hour. Associate that with 8 inches per mile squared. Well, the math gives us the following: 2,777 feet per minute rate of descent for that airplane to follow the globe. Okay, and that is a continuous descent, not to land. That is a continuous descent while the aircraft is at altitude flying along.
Wow.
Well, let's compare that. Let's make the comparison now. 500 feet per minute to land the airplane to a full stop at an airport. On the globe, the airplane has to descend continuously at 2,777. That's more than 5 times the rate of descent for a landing, and that's a continuous descent. So I did some more math today, by the way, Vika. Thank you for asking. It's average 500 feet per minute. Okay, so I looked up gravity, 32 feet per second squared. Okay, that's the quote supposed gravity, right? If you drop something, it in a vacuum, okay, it falls at 32 feet per second squared. Well, let's convert that to feet per minute. That is 1,920 feet per minute. Okay, that's gravity. Now, let's remember, an airplane flying around the curve of the globe at 500 miles an hour must maintain a rate of descent of 2,777 feet per minute, which is almost 1,000 more feet per minute than something falling in free fall. That's absurd. That's the most absurd measurement we could have. So I'm bringing that to the flat Earth community. That's what the math gives us, Vika, and everybody else. Can we see the perspective here? The 8 inches per mile squared around the curve of the globe at 500 miles an hour, that's faster than free fall. That's more absurd than one can imagine. Vika, that is the simple math. That's high school math right there.
So, I've been intrigued, and I keep taking notes as you keep talking, that there's always this new, it's not new measurements, it's not new, rate of descent is nothing new.
Standard.
But what people seem to forget is the globe model, the heliocentric model, that science and math is never used in a functioning application.
Exactly.
Never, ever.
Because it proves the fraud if they ever do.
Exactly. So kudos to you, and rate of descension just made my list of bullets in the gun.
That's a foundational effect of flat Earth, isn't it? It's a foundation.
Amen, brother. Amen. That and elevation angles, that and you triangulation, and I mean the list just keeps growing and growing and growing. Thank you. I don't want to take a lot of time here, but thank you, Rob.
Yep, and that's my point, Lon. That is exactly my point, and that's why I send out these messages to everybody in the group, so everybody can see and understand. Anybody can do this math. Pilots don't know anything that's not normal. They have more experience with it, but just because they're a pilot doesn't mean they know something special. Anybody can do this math, and anybody that does this math and can explain it, well, they're smarter in this effect than the average pilot.
Amen.
Take it and run.
Amen. So I sat in that co-pilot seat for so many times, and had I known then what I know now, it just would have been a no-brainer. I know you bring a plane up to elevation, to your altitude. It's locked in, and you don't bring it down until your point of destination is arrived at. It's point A to point B. That's it, and there is no curvature. So, all right.
I don't know what to add after you guys. I'm so happy to be here. You guys are amazing. You know what I noticed that at 500 miles an hour, you move about 40 miles in 5 minutes, and I don't ever see any chemtrails with any sort of curve much to them.
Well
and
said.
they're always straight lines.
Yep.
So
guess what,
if
Gene?
you can follow a plane for 5 minutes, that's a good amount of time. 40 miles is going to show something.
Gene, that's a prescient observation. Prescient, not precious, but a prescient, but precious as well. Guess what? My mother pointed that out to me this week.
I'm not sure I know what that word means.
My own mother pointed that out, so that's awesome.
I have a couple. The first comment by FE Patriots: at a speed of 500 miles per hour, the plane would fly at just over 8 miles per minute. Therefore, the rate of descent in the first minute from the starting position is just under 50 feet and then increases
exponentially.
Yeah.
31 miles at the end of the 500 miles of its flight from the starting position. So that averages about 2,800 feet of descent per minute.
Wow.
There you go. That's exactly my calculation. 2,777 around the globe. Exactly.
FE Patriot's pretty good. He's really good.
That's all fictitious.
Thank you for joining us too, FE.
Fictitious.
Yep.
It's a dreamland. The globe is from fairyland. Dreamland.
It's non sequitur.
Hola, non sequitur.
Yes. And the fact that at no educational level, at zero educational level, is anyone ever taught the Earth curvature equation. You don't get it in preschool. You don't get it in elementary school. You don't get it in middle school. You don't get it in junior high school, university, undergraduate work, postgraduate work, doctoral work. You don't get it.
Talk about it.
Because it doesn't exist. The flat Earth, the curvature equation was created by people who were looking for the curve.
Yes, exactly.
But you know what equation they gave us that makes zero sense is E equals MC squared, and you can't apply it.
Yeah.
You can't apply that to anything in real life.
That's to support their myth of the nuclear bombs. That's all that was.
Yeah, and gravity.
Hocus pocus to cover hocus pocus.
That's their magic fairy dust.
Reference Fairyland. We all know this
That's
quote. Right. I looked up the quote by Tesla on Einstein.
Yeah.
And I'll just reiterate it here. So, because it was on the subject a couple minutes ago, Einstein's relativity work is a magnificent mathematical garb. This is heliocentrism as well. Right. Magnificent medical garb which fascinates, dazzles, and makes people blind to the underlying errors. The theory is like a beggar clothed in purple whom ignorant people take for a king. Its exponents are brilliant men, but they are metaphysicists rather than scientists. Wow.
Well, there it is.
Yes.
One of my favorite quotes from Tesla. Absolutely a great. They bounce from equation after equation until they get the answer they're trying to.
Yes. That's another part of it.
Class understands anything.
With Mike, and Mike's call sign is Cujo, and Mike is an F-16 fighter pilot, retired, and he flew F-16s for many years, and he is the guy that Ben initially made the video about a while back, and he has decided that he wanted to go public and come out, visual, because, well, I'll let him tell that story here in a little bit. But we're really glad that he has come out with us. And, Mike, it's really great to have you on Globebusters. This is fabulous.
Well, geez, I really appreciate it. You guys are have been my television for the last number of years. And it's like I'm talking to celebrities. So if I'm a little nervous like a little girl, don't make fun of me.
Okay. Well, we'll try and keep that mellow. So, obviously, you've already, you've been in it for a while. You figured it out a few years ago, and you decided recently that you wanted to go public. Because you were kind of encouraging doctors, to speak out about what they know about the current pandemic, and you decided that who were you to advise them to do that if you weren't going to take steps in the same direction? I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Thanks for keeping that YouTube friendly for me, because I may not have been able to do it.
No problem.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would be a really big hypocrite if I'm trying to hold them to task because they don't want to blow up their gig. My gig's kind of gone and behind me. There's nothing you guys can dig and get me fired from. So there you have it. But yeah, it's that's part of what's held me back was that my wife's a professional with the military as well. She's done almost 40 years and is retiring soon. So I wanted to start talking about this because there's just too many lies in the world now. It just seems like everything is deceit, and it gets overwhelming. And one of the biggest things that have been holding me back, I was talking about all the brotherhood and that from my squadron days in the past. One of the main things that you worry about as a fighter pilot is not dying or anything else. It's looking bad in front of your buds, or getting one of them killed because you didn't do something that you were supposed to do, or there's a lot of I don't know, I can't think of the word now, but you understand what I mean. It's you take that very seriously,
and they're like family.
You take it exactly right. And I don't want any of those guys to look at me and say, "Geez, what happened to Cujo?" But I will tell you that those guys, to the man, were the smartest people I've ever known, and all they have to do is go down the road that I went down, and they're going to be sitting on this side of the screen as well, because it's obvious. But the reason you don't ever look into it when when you're in the moment is because you just figure the earth is just vast, you don't see curvature because it's huge, right? So you don't ever think to question it. I remember, I don't know, it was probably 2015. I don't know when the first basketball player or some sports figure came out and said, the earth is flat. And I'm like, oh my God. Well, I had a little bit of time. I'm like, what's that? So I start to do a little research, right? And I Google, and guess what comes up? Flat Earth Society on the top thing. I read that. I go, what a freaking moron, these basketball players. Right? So about a year later, one of my daughters actually said, Dad, have you looked into Flat Earth at all? And I'm like, come on. No. And she's like, oh, there's some pretty compelling stuff. I think you might be interested. And again, I had some time. So I started digging into it, and actually found, I'm pretty sure I started with taboo conspiracy stuff and seeing Too Far and those things, and Antarctica, really, that your video about Antarctica's closed or whatever. That was a big one for me too. But the See Too Far, and I never even thought to wonder what the curvature formula is, right? 8 inches per mile squared, that ain't vast, man. The distances that we were working would have made a huge difference in my visual and radar presentations on a day-to-day basis. I know that it would have. And, I just can't hop back 20 years and put it to the test. I wish I knew then what I know now. And actually, some of my goals about this is hoping that some young fighter pilot will go, I'm going to check out what that old bastard says, and go out and do what I'm going to describe to you guys in a minute to put it to the test. I hope it happens, but,
yeah.
Well, you guys aren't going to look at this. They're going to Google it and look at Flat Earth Society.
Exactly. And that's exactly it. We've said that so many times to people, that the Flat Earth Society is the first line that the alphabet agencies have put out there to draw people to them. And of course, then they tell them a story that's utterly absurd. And then the reaction is that people say, this is crazy. They walk away from it. They do exactly what you did. So when they got you to go to the Flat Earth Society and you walked away shaking your head going, these people are nuts. I mean, they did their job, right? So it's cool that your daughter suggested that to you. And it also tells me that, you think a lot about what your daughter thinks. You obviously have a lot of confidence in your daughter. And,
I tell you what, man, just to put this out there, I've been so very blessed with all of my children that, haven't been into drugs or any of the crap that a lot of people have to deal with. And, my youngest now is like 32 or 33. You never keep that stuff straight, right? But I'm 60, and it's adult kids. You think your kids are fun when they're at a young age, but adult kids are even more fun. I just love it. And we listen to her, and some of them think I'm maybe a little bit crazy, but most of them are going, maybe true, but I don't care. That sort of thing.
That's a common one, the I don't care. I wonder
it's common, yeah.
I don't understand it, because for me it's like it means everything. I mean, we've been lied to since we were born. To me, it's not I don't care. That's like one of those things that we got to tell everybody.
I think there's an element of laziness in that statement, right? I don't care because I'm not going to go digging and looking into that. I'll listen to you and laugh, kind of thing. But, my wife is buying into it, and she's been in places. I mean, I am definitely not a whistleblower, because I don't have any more information about this than you do. No fighter pilot does, except maybe the ones that some of my buds that made very high rank, and I'll leave them
have a
nameless,
security clearance for it. Yes.
Yeah, that maybe know some.
And there are people in those positions that that have that security clearance, because obviously there are people that must know.
They have to know.
Yeah.
The whole space thing, and I don't know. Those are the things that make it hard for me, you know,
Yeah,
because
I understand.
it's obvious that we see too far, and the 8 inches per mile squared thing is crazy. You want me to get into the radar stuff now? And the reason I got into it, or you got some other questions?
Yeah, in a minute, I want to cover a couple other things really quick first, then I'll let you kind of go through
Before I
that.
put everybody to sleep.
No, not at all. There's a lot of there's a lot of areas. I have to say that Mike showed us his me room. Is that what you called it? Your me room? Your me room?
I love me room. Every fighter pilot has one. So that gives me credibility amongst fighter pilots right there. They know I'm not lying. I really am one because I got an I love me room.
Yeah, and as you can see behind him there, he's got the F-16 things on the wall and all around him. He showed us earlier all of his, medals and awards and training and squadron information and aircraft. I mean, everything. Wow, what a career you've had. It's absolutely amazing.
Would you mind
secretly
covering
I
some
would
of
have
that?
paid them.
Would you mind covering some of your education and training?
Yeah. Well, in college, I got really lucky. I always knew I wanted to be some sort of, I thought I wanted to be a civilian, kind of like a corporate pilot or something like that. I wanted to fly. I've been flying since I got my license on my 16th birthday. So I've been flying for literally as long as I could have. I was blessed with that and at a young age, but, ROTC in college, there's a 2-year program and a 4-year program. I had longer hair back then. I almost said back in the day, but I didn't say it because that would be.
I'm watching you.
Anyway, 2-year program, 4-year program, and I'm like, I'll take the 2-year program. Why would you do 4 if you can get it done in 2? Well, I was talking to my advisor one day, and he goes, it was like in the end of the first semester, what do you want to do, kind of thing. Well, I need to get in the Air Force and get hours so I can be a pilot, right? So he goes, why aren't you enrolled in that? I'm like, 2-year program. No, you're not going to get a slot unless you get over there and beg to let you in the second semester. So I got in late, and miraculously I got a pilot slot, which, there were only, 15 of us that had them out of my college that year. But I went off to pilot training. Pilot training is a year long. Call it UPT, undergraduate pilot training. In the early 80s. I don't want to narrow it down to the year because then people can look it up, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
I'm going to try to be as vague
try.
as possible.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll try to be as vague as possible. But I was fortunate enough to do well enough to get a fighter out of there. We only had, six or so fighter assignments out of 30 people. So I got a fighter and got my first choice. I got an A-10. So I went and flew A-10s at a very beautiful location in stateside. And did that for 3 years and then ended up flying OV-10s, which is, you get a bad deal for a good deal kind of thing. The Air Force always does that to you. Bob, you probably remember, here's a shiny thing, but you got to do this thing first, right?
Oh, yeah.
I went and did OV-10s, but I loved it. I was a forward air controller, and so close air support was a big thing to me. And I learned so much, even though the top speed on the OV-10 is like the actual airframe speed is 350. But you can get anywhere near that, even straight downhill. But anyway, from there, I got my good deal. I got my F-16 out of there, and I did that for 12 years, mostly in Europe. But one assignment, my last assignment was back here in the States at an exercise facility where I got to fly every block and model of the airplane. It was pretty awesome.
Wow, that is incredible.
But that's it.
And you mentioned you have actually been in combat situations as well. Can you talk about any of those?
I had the opportunity to fly in combat. I have about somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 hours in combat. Had some surface to air missiles shot at me, but it's kind of a funny story where, disciplined, trained fighter pilots, right? And in training, it's always, if a surface to air missile comes up, or simulator or whatever, you're very direct on the radio, like, you know, Cujo 1's defending Sam right 2 o'clock bearing 045, you know. No. In the real situation, you just get on the radio and sound like a little girl and yell, Sam! I have a buddy Buster that every time I talk to him, he yells, Sam! But yeah, not my coolest moment ever. In every situation, you want to sound like calm and collected on the radio, right? So, you know, you got an engine on fire, you're supposed to just go, yeah, engine on fire. I'll be ejecting here shortly.
I don't know how I
That's
would
neither here
report.
nor there. You
I
guys
don't know.
have to pull in the reins on me. I'll get off on a tangent. I'm old.
That's okay. I have no idea how I would report a, you know, like a sidewinder coming up my 6.
Yeah. Well, this was an SA6, and I was a little nervous about it, but I got even later.
Excellent.
But
Okay.
that's a story for another day.
All right. Beautiful. So, all right. So you've been looking into this for a while, and as you told me earlier, you started in with Ben's stuff, and then you kind of came across Jaron and then Globebusters, and that was awesome to hear. And you know, I have to tell you that what you're doing here is amazing, because so many people are afraid to speak out because of the consequences and what they'll try to do to you. You know, you have people like Wolfie 6020 out there and George Nutsack, and you know, these people will try and go after, you know, people's careers, and it's horrible what they try to do. So I have to say it's very commendable. It's very brave, and you know, you've already kind of gotten a taste of that with Wolfie 6020, and you've had some interactions with him. And I'm just curious, you know, you mentioned me earlier that he gave you a quiz, you know, he gave you his airline, you know, pilot quiz. He thinks he knows everything. And when you answered the question, and then he came back and then accused you of simply looking it up. And it's like, well, geez, you know,
Yeah.
anybody could have looked it up. I answered his questions right too, but that didn't stop him from, you know.
Yeah, there's no winning with those guys, right? They're going to try to do, debunked in 2 minutes. And by the time I left Ben's chat on that video, I'm like, I'm just out of here. And then, of course, because I disappeared, it's, obvious he was not whatever. You know, I'm not in a in my previous life, it was rare that my integrity would be called into question. So I didn't even really consider that kind of thing. I should have. I mean, I don't believe everything I see on the internet either, but, you know, whatever. But, yeah, Woofy 911 369, whatever his name is.
Yeah. Well,
He's
like I
obviously
said,
paid for it, so.
he is a paid operative. He's bragged about it, and nobody can stand him. He is a liar to the nth degree, and you know, he's the guy that they call in when they really think they've got a problem, right? And why they would, you know, we've had our interactions with him as well, especially recently with the Second Son thing, and I just thought it was ironic that they would call him in. You know, it's like, what, like this airline pilot is supposedly a expert on astronomy now, and you know. And the accusations that he comes up with are just crazy. So I wouldn't think too much about him. And, you know, people are going to look at you and they're going to judge you on your own merits and, you know, what they think of you, the man, and not what Wolfie says, because Wolfie has pretty much shown his hand and what he is and who he is. And that's not a good person at all.
Well, I appreciate that, Bob. But, you know, like I said, there's no way to argue with those guys, because any question you answer, you just looked it up on the internet and he's not a real pilot, whatever. It's not like it's that special. You know, I was just a pilot that kind of started thinking about 8 inches per mile squared. It ain't that big.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny, though, that you say that, because I didn't think that much of it either. You know, and I got my pilot's license back in 1978 also. And it was like, people think that because you're a pilot, you have this magical knowing, right? About how all the curvature of the world works. And it's like, no, they never teach you about that in any part of flight training. In fact, everything they do teach you is directly related to a flat stationary Earth, from your textbooks, which literally come out and state that, to your first days in your aircraft with your flight instructor. And he says, see that point on the horizon out there? You pick that point and you fly to it. and you will fly a straight and level flight. And it's that
Yeah.
simple.
It is, and I remember, I'm talking 40 years ago. I remember, like the first day in academics at UPT, it was reading that statement in the book is like this all assumes a rigid aircraft, flying on a stationary flat Earth, and you're like, well, why would they do that? And then my mind goes to, well, the other stuff would just be too complicated in calculations, and they can't teach that to dumb pilots, right? So that's kind of what I thought, and I forgot about it, and that was that.
Yeah, it's easy to do that, but and then when you finally do realize it, you think about all the things from flight planning. Whenever you set up a navigation to go anywhere, it's all based on a flat Earth.
I never even thought about the horizon, the eye level thing was a big deal. I mean, I never thought about it, but from the first day in formation training, you're looking at the other airplane and your instructor goes, if he's above the horizon, you're below him. If he's below the horizon, you're above him. If he's on the horizon, you're level. 100% fact all the time. Pitch outs and rejoins. We used to do these exercises where you're flying together and the flight lead would give you the pitch out signal, and you'd pitch out and you do a big 180 degree, 360 degree turn, come back at 6 o'clock, and then he'd go into a turn and rock you in for a rejoin, right? Rocking his wings means come join to close with me. And fighter pilots talk with their hands, so that's more proof right there. I'm a freaking okay. Sorry. But, the technique was put the guy about a fist above the horizon, get up on the wing line and drive in level, so that if you overshoot under him or behind him, right? And only whenever you were obviously controlled and going to move in, then you come up to his level, right?
Right.
That's basics, and it's just not true. And all these other guys were piling on, and I got really upset about that.
Yeah, like
I'm
I
glad
said,
to have that behind me. I'm not going to mention it one more time, Bob. That's another thing. Woofy.
Okay.
If I mention it, that's another dollar.
Screw Woofy. I'm down with that. That's fine.
All right.
Hey, Mike, do you mind explaining a little bit further for someone who might not understand what that means about the horizon? The fact that if a plane was above the horizon, they would be above you or below, and why this affects why it's important with respect to the flat Earth.
I never considered even about flat Earth, right? I mean, it was just a plain fact for us was if he is on the horizon, then you are level with him. If he is above the horizon, then you got the horizon down there. That's level. He's above you if he's above the horizon, and if he's below, it's below. I mean, it's that simple. And obviously, the implications on a flat Earth, which I never thought of until I was getting all that crap from Woofy, market dollar. But I never even really considered that. It's not something I'd come across in any of the stuff that had been watching, but you get to thinking about it and go, well, geez, yeah, if you go up above a ball, the horizon is going to be down there. If you go up above a big, vast, flat Earth, then it's going to stay at eye level because of perspective.
And it does. That's right. And the thing that the Globers do not seem to understand about that is that, they will go up higher and higher and higher. And obviously, if there was a horizon, it would have to be below you, right? But they will say because they can actually look down and see the horizon once you get up past a certain height, that proves that the Earth is curved. But what they don't seem to understand is that there is a limit to your vision.
It's a limit to your vision, right?
They are incapable of understanding that.
You can go on the internet and find HUD video where the horizon line looks like it's above a horizon, but it's not the horizon. It's like where the visibility ends here, but the horizon
it's
actually
the apparent horizon.
Out. Right? It's like a false horizon or whatever.
And
you can find those videos all day, but
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. Nowadays, it used to be 5 years ago we were arguing against the Globers, and they were saying that, you can't see past this geometric horizon, right? Which, of course, would be the mathematical place where the Earth meets the sky. And now they're saying that it doesn't even exist. You can't see that.
Yeah, I can't follow that logic. I've watched those things and I've tried to piece that together, and I'm like, I can't follow that logic because
It's so
I know
retarded.
from thousands of hours of experience that the horizon is your level. I mean, it's at eye level, it's your level. Anything above it is above you. Anything below it is below you. I mean, that's fact.
So,
and any of my old buds that are watching this will go, yeah, Cujo's right about that one. I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that's a foregone conclusion. The Ballers, they have to say stuff like that because, once the Black Swan came out, and I assume you're familiar with the Black Swan.
Yeah.
That pretty much annihilated the idea of any geometrical horizon because there simply isn't one, and it is apparent, and that's what the Flat Earthers have always said. And that apparent horizon, like I said, when you get up to 50,000 feet, there will be a slight drop in the apparent horizon, but that is only because of the limitations of your visibility. And they, they can't comprehend that. But more importantly, as a fighter pilot, you depend on that type of observation. When you are like in combat, you have like a high-speed closure situation where you're coming together. You said it's sometimes around 1,500 plus miles per hour. You better be able to make a snap decision, not only visually, but on your instruments as well, to be able to determine where that combatant is coming from. Yes.
Well, and two, if you get into a rolling, dogfight or whatever, you're dependent on the horizon. You're not looking inside, especially if you're defensive. You're looking outside and knowing, if he's above you, if he's below you, if he's above you, he's got more energy than you do, right? If you're at the same speed, he's got more energy because he can exchange his altitude for
speed. Yes.
For speed. So, I mean, it's just a fact. It's just a fact. I mean, and that's why I never even considered it like a thing, but apparently it's a thing.
So, that was one of the videos. And of course, Ben, I don't know if you saw it, but when I'm sure you did, when he played your video, he actually ran an instructional video about the particular piece of equipment that you were using when you were scanning with the radar. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I don't know if I know exactly your question.
The APG-68?
Yeah, APG-65.
APG-68. Yeah, sorry, I didn't know the model.
Yeah, I can tell you how that works, not like from a beeps and squeaks level, but from
I can tell you that part of it.
Yeah,
I can tell
right.
you that part
I'll
of it. Yes.
I'm
the radar guy.
Well, this radar on the Viper is it's got a huge scan volume, right? Plus or minus 60 of the nose, left and right, and 4 bars up and down. They call it plus or minus 64 bar or plus or minus 32 bar, whatever, right? So these 4 bars are the scanning bars, and I'm pretty sure, but I would have to, this is 20, even like my training in F-16s was over 30 years ago. So take some of this with a grain of salt, but I'm pretty sure that like your radar, you can see my fingers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your radar is like a flashlight beam, right?
Yes.
It radiates out.
It's slightly divergent.
I guess in a cone, or it really in Doppler radars, it's more like a square maybe. But at any rate, it's like this. And I think this is 30 degrees, right? So 4 bar would be, it starts up here, 60 degrees to the left, scans over, 60 degrees to the right, drops down 1 bar, which would be 30 degrees, right? Scans back. So the bottom is basically at your nose. It's level. If you got the L strobe in the notch in the center, it scans back. So you've got the upper 60 degrees covered, right? To twice at 30 degrees. Then it drops down another 30, scans back all the way back over to right 60. Then it drops down again, scans back to drop that other 60 degrees. So I'm pretty sure it's 120 degrees this way and 120 degrees this way. This way, I'm not positive about, but I'm almost positive. Okay, so that's a huge search volume, right? That's if you go the rate, and there's ranges that you set in the radar. You can set it at 10, you can set it at 20, you can set it at 40, you can set it at 80. It even goes out farther than that. I think 120, but it may have been 160. I don't recall exactly, right? But we typically ran it out at 40 miles because being careful what I say, a fighter-sized target is probably not going to show up beyond the 40-mile range, okay? Just suffice it to say that. So we pretty much ran, if you're just fully scanning, not really going to fight, you're running plus or minus 64 bar, both you and your wingman and the other element if you've got a four-ship, right? Everybody's running that, just keeping it wide open. When you're going into a fight, though, you're like training fights. I never was in an air-to-air engagement in combat. That was they never came up to fight us. I did kill some MiGs on the ground, though, in a place I dropped bombs on. Anyway, that's beside the point as well. I'll go off on tangents, man. You got to reel me in.
That's okay. Hey, we like hearing it. You just, we'll reel you in if you get too far out. No problem.
Okay. So typically, our engagements, you would have your adversary, we call them red air, and we're blue air. We're the good guys. They're the bad guys. They would split off, and they would go to a point at least 40 miles away downrange from you. And this is all in protected airspace, right? You would have blocks, altitude blocks. For blue air is 0s to 4s, red air is 5 to 9s, right? That means like from 10,000 to 14,000 feet is my airspace. It skips 1,000 feet and goes 5s to 9s. So the red air is in 5s to 9s, 15 to 19. And then it would skip another 1,000 feet. I've got a block up at 20 to 24 and so on. I got a block at 30 to 34 if I've got the airspace up there. Okay, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So all sorted out so that when we come at each other at 12 to 1,500 miles an hour, then until you have complete SA on where everybody is, you don't leave your block. You stay in your block until if you go into a bad guy block, you got to know where everybody is, right? So whether you're fighting 2v2 or 2v4 or 4v4 or whatever, kind of need to keep track of where everybody is. And that's the hard part. Air is hard for a simple-minded guy like me. I knew some really smart guys that could just four-dimensionally fight a battle. They were awesome. I wasn't that awesome. I was great air to ground, but air to air, I was okay. I could hold my own, but it was the hardest thing. Anyway, so the radar, you get this 40-mile set, right? Everybody has a search responsibility. I'll just say that we're in a 2v4, okay? 2 of me versus 4 of them, right? We're separated by 40 miles. We're going to push, which means we're going to fights on. They come in whatever formation they're going to come in, and we're going to do our tactics to defeat what their formation is. They can come into us at, wide line abreast. They can come out into us in a post hole, high, low stack kind of thing, or lead trail formation. And you've got to adjust your tactics to come into the merge at a position of advantage against them so that you can kill them, right? If you can't kill them in the face before you get to the merge, which is ideal, and avoid dying by a missile in the face on the way in. And that's a whole nother story. Anyway, so because of this plus or minus 64 bar takes a really long time and we're coming at each other so fast, you want to reduce your scopes coverage down so that it covers it faster so you can find them quicker, right? Does that make sense? Pretty simple.
Absolutely.
So what we would typically do is I got my wingman line abreast a mile away from me, right? He's over there, I'm over here. We split the scope down the middle, so I got plus or minus 30 here, and I'm searching, say, surface to 20,000 feet. Yeah, that works better. I'm probably going to leave it in 4 bar if it's just a 2-ship. If it's a 4-ship, then we can split it into 2 bar, and we can search quadrants of the sky, right? So we divide the sky up into quadrants and move the radar to where it makes sense. Okay, here's where the radar mechanics works. Because I want to search high, right? I'm just doing 2-bar up high.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to search from, say we're at the bottom of our block, 10,000 feet. I'm going to search 10,000 feet and above, and I want my wingman to search 10,000 feet and below, right? So you do this knob on the throttle. It's called the L strobe, elevation, whatever strobe. You can roll the radar search volume up so that there's a number on the cursor, right? The bottom number is the lowest bit. So if I'm searching 10,000 and above, I'm at 10,000 feet, then the bottom number on the cursor is going to say 10,000. Now it's searching up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got 10,000 and above. So I don't expect to see anybody out there at 40 miles below 10,000 feet. What is that telling you now? I'm at 10,000 feet. I got the lowest part of my radar looking above 10,000 feet at 40 miles, but because I just ran my cursor out there and I set it there. What happened to the curvature between me and 40 miles? I would really be searching higher than that, right? If I set the cursor, the bottom of my cursor, basically level with the nose of my airplane, can you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I there and I run that all the way out to 40 miles. That the numbers change because the search volume gets bigger, but just the upper number is going to change because I've got this bottom set, right?
Right.
So the upper,
and theoretically,
because it's 60 degrees higher, so the volume is higher out there. But that bottom number doesn't change. I roll it all the way out to 40 miles. It ought to be this
dropping
bottom
down.
ought to be dropping
That's
or
right.
higher because
Otherwise, if it didn't, then the problem is going to be that somebody's going to literally slip in under your radar.
that's
Literally.
exactly right. Exactly right.
That
But
doesn't happen.
that doesn't happen. And it would also happen this way, wouldn't it? When I scan out there, when I'm looking 60 degrees right, 10,000 and above, and 60 degrees left, 10,000 and above, I'm losing guys under over there too, right? Because it's curving this way.
Mhm.
So I would have no coverage below, you know what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. In other words, what they have completely failed to do in these situations is to set you up to be able to cover the curvature of the Earth. Because
That's right.
there isn't any, because that would be a gross negligence, really. And
Yeah,
because
well, I
literally
know the
people
radar
could sneak
doesn't
up
do
from
this.
underneath you. That's right.
I know it
Yeah.
doesn't do this, right? It
Right,
does
and
this.
some people will say, well, then how come you just don't turn on your max radar all the time for full range? Well, the problem
Because
with that
it
is
takes way too long to get through the whole scan.
exactly.
At the closure rates, then they would be in on us before we found them.
That's right, because you have in radar, you have a pulse recurring frequency, a pulse recurring time, and depending on how those are set is what depends what the maximum range of the radar is, okay, and also the resolution, whether or not it's going to give you data back, and the response time as well, because all of that stuff takes time.
You said resolution. Here's another word for you to confirm I'm a fighter pilot. Res cell. Guys can hide inside the resolution of your radar at range. They can be basically inside of 1 pixel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got a 2 ship coming in together, and it looks like one guy. And then when it gets close, oh no, I've got 2 there that I was going after with this tactic, and now I'm outnumbered 1v2, right?
Yep.
So res cell. Anyway, Radar Mechanics 101, they built it for a flat, stationary Earth. There's no doubt about it. And my goal is for some young fighter pilot to listen to what I just said, go out tomorrow and set the bottom of your L strobe on your altitude, run it out there to 80 miles, and that bottom altitude on your cursor will stay the same out to 80 miles. Whereas it should get bigger, right? Because the Earth is curving away.
That's right.
Bingo.
by a huge rate.
That was what I was trying to put in an email to Ben. No wonder it didn't work that way.
No, I understood it perfectly, but that's because I dealt with radar. So, yeah. But no, I understood exactly what you were saying, and you're absolutely right. And that point alone just nails it, because otherwise they'd be terribly negligent in not designing, having the support for you to be able to cover all areas.
Right. And the other thing is, say I got a lock on a guy at 20 miles out there, and he's in the block above me, right? If he's in his block and I'm seeing his altitude on my radar, once I lock somebody, I can see what altitude they're at, what their airspeed is, what their aspect is in relation to me, like if they're pointing at me or going away or whatever. So if I'm looking out there and I see this guy and I've got a TD box, a target designation box, comes up in the HUD what I'm locked on, I can pull my nose to him and look out there and try to get my eyeballs on him. So, because at 20 miles, you're not seeing the guy yet. You're not going to see him till probably, depending on the conditions, I don't even remember really, but probably 12 miles at the most. You're not seeing a guy out there at 20 miles. But I'll pull a technique is pull the TD box into the guy, look and see where it is. And if you get spiked on the nose because he's shooting a radar missile at you, you can do certain, I have to be careful about what I say.
I understand.
You can do certain things, and now you know where that guy is and do those things in relation to where he is, because you're going to gimbal him off your radar when you start maneuvering. Like he'll get outside of that 60 degrees from you, and you got to kind of know where he was in the sky. So always, right, the guy's above me, and if he's at 20 miles and I got him locked, he's in the block above me, he's going to be above the horizon, and he always was. If he was down in my block, I'd knock it off because he's in my block, right?
Yep, absolutely. There's no way around that. There's absolutely no way around that.
There's no way around, dude. There's just not. And I got to thinking about that in bed one night when I wasn't sleeping, which I do a lot. I just had to get up and email Ben the next day. I tried to get in touch with you, I think, first, but Ben was the one that responded to me finally. Maybe I tried Weiss first. And Weiss said, I don't want to talk to that guy. I got an interview.
Well, we're glad that you got a hold of us regardless. So, I mean, this is awesome. But, and this is something, Mike, the good thing about it is now that you have come forward and, it's very clear that you are a fighter pilot. I mean, Ben and I saw your Me Room. It's fantastic. I clearly know. I love Me Room. Yes, the I love Me Room. And well, we all know that. I mean, fighter pilots have to have an extremely high opinion of themselves. They have to be incredibly confident. So I get it. I get the psychology. I really do. And
but I'm not really that way. You just have to have that.
I know. But when we're all young men in our 20s and 30s, we're a lot cockier, and life
just ask my wife.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I totally get that. And, watch the movie Top Gun, right? I mean, that's what it's about. These guys are
great
full
movie,
of themselves.
totally unrealistic scenes, but great movie.
I know. Yeah, well, that's Hollywood for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, people are going to see this and they're going to say, you know what? I think it's time for me to stand up and start talking, because, what we're seeing going on in the world right now, in so many arenas it's scary. It just
That's
is.
my great motivator, Bob, is that I'm just tired of all the lies, man. You cannot look at anything without deception in it. And now you're MO'd. If you look at something on Breitbart or whatever, what are they trying to feed me? It's not just Democrat and Republican. It's everything. What are they trying to push me into? This whole UFO thing.
Yeah, that's the next thing that I think, because the elite are fully aware that we're coming, the truthers are coming down on them all around them in every aspect, from 9/11 all the way forward, all of these events that have happened. And so now, obviously, the next thing they have to do is something that cannot necessarily bring blame or suspicion upon them.
Yeah.
And that's what.
And bring that one world, the world has to come together to fight this common enemy thing.
Yep.
Right. And
Reagan
Werner
nailed
von
it.
Braun told that lady that
Dr. Carol
this
Rosin.
is what was going to happen. It's been the plan, man. That's
Mhm.
crazy. Ben, you're smiling. What do you want?
No, I was trying to reel you back in. But one of those, we've talked a lot about a lot of different subjects, but one of those I wanted you to cover is Coriolis. I've been doing quite a bit of research on German bombers, and one of the things they calculated everything: airspeed, directions, very detailed. How wind speed, elevations, everything had to be very exact in order to drop a bomb without actually seeing the target. But one thing they never considered was Coriolis, and that's something I wanted you to talk about, is how much adjustments did you have to make on your bombing runs for Coriolis?
The very first time that I heard about Coriolis was on some Flat Earth video. Like somebody talking about Coriolis. I'm like, what the hell is that? Coriolis. Now, let me tell you something. I have dropped literally tons of bombs off of an airplane. A-10s. I've shot thousands of rockets off of OD-10s. Shot rockets off of Vipers. So I've dropped a lot of dumb bombs, right? All that stuff goes out the window, right? When you're dropping LGBs, laser guided bombs or whatever, if you're guiding them, or missiles, surface air missiles or whatever, air to surface missiles. All that guidance stuff takes this whole argument out of the picture. But I've literally dropped tons and tons of dumb bombs. As a side note, our practice bombs are called BDU 33s. 33. Illuminati confirmed.
Yes.
Actually, I think they're 33-pound bomb dummy units. 33.
33
Anyway,
dummy
little blue bombs with a shotgun charge in it. And I did a lot of manual bombing in the A-10. I was flying the A-10 before INS. I even flew some A-10s before they had ILS, instrument landing system, but INS, inertial navigation system. We had ring laser gyro jets and some that were standard gyros. I don't know, whatever. You always wanted the ring laser gyro jets because they were supposed to be better, but still, all of the INSs sucked back in the early 80s. You had to update them or they would drift like 3 miles on a mission because you're maneuvering, they get off. So you'd have to fly over a known point and reel it back into where you are. But I grew up a map to ground guy, time, distance, and heading guy. So anyway, tons and tons of bombs, and all different, from 60-degree dive bombs, 30-degree dive bombs, 20-degree, low angle, 10-degree, and from all kinds of situations back in the day. Dang it. There's another one. We used to think that the way we were going to go fight a war was low altitude, flying under the radar, in the ground clutter, so you could defeat SAMs and stuff. So in the HOG, in the A-10, we were low altitude kings. I mean, you could get checked out in certain situations to 100 feet. So you're rooting around at 100 feet, low ass altitude, and a typical bombing run was done out of a pop pattern. So you would action at a certain distance away from the target. You'd turn so many, like 30 degrees or 45 degrees or whatever it was, depending on what you were trying to accomplish, and pop up. And then you'd have a pull down altitude and an apex altitude. And you'd have to roll out right on like the numbers, or you're going to miss because it's just a dumb bomb. It's going to come off when, the geometry says it's going to hit the target, and all that stuff is figured out for you. And you're supposed to fly exactly the profile and be exactly on airspeed, have the pipper on the target. And we used to have a saying, all you got to do is put the thing on the thing and press the thing. And
So basically, Ben, what he's saying is that
no Coriolis.
There is no Coriolis, and that's why he didn't even know what it was until it came up.
Yeah, no Coriolis. Long story short, I'll shut up and quit telling my story.
No, it's true.
Literally dropped tons and tons, and strafe.
Oh, okay.
That's a 30 millimeter casing, right? That's the A10 bullet, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would shoot. Man, this is really reaching back deep into the recesses of my mind, but it would shoot like really close to 100 rounds per second. I think it was 80 rounds per second. It was a 7-barrel Gatling gun, right? So it would go real fast. You could actually see the vapor trail of the bullets from the cockpit. But you could get about a 75% accuracy from a mile, and that's putting the gun cross on the target, right? Maybe correcting for a little bit of wind, but never Coriolis.
Nope, never Coriolis.
Long range strafe, short range or regular strafe, low angle strafe was the C-Spire was like at 2,000 feet. So it was really fun. If you weren't shooting 100%, you weren't winning.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned that you've flown at high altitudes as well, right?
Oh yeah. 60-degree dive bomb. I mean, you have releases up in the mid-teens, 15,000 feet or whatever above the target. So yeah.
So what's the highest elevation you've actually flown, even in the F-16? That you can admit.
That would be elite. Well, 50,000 feet is the rule for Air Force pilots without a pressure suit.
Wow, that high?
So 50,000 feet. But I actually got to, I'm pretty sure it was 54 it was either 54.6 or 56.4 one time. And even in pilot training, I had a crazy instructor. He was a Georgia boy. I loved him. He was great. In T-38s, we went up. I don't even know where we were. It had to be cross country or something because we didn't typically have airspace that would go this high. But we got up to like above 50 in the T-38, and he said, whatever you do, do not touch the throttles, because if you just move a throttle, you're going to flame one out because of, the air's so freaking thin. But yeah, that high. I remember that the sky started to take on a different kind of thing. I remember purple, but that could have been just the.
It's kind of like what the sky does when
or whatever, but it would get really dark,
Yeah.
and it kind of seemed purplish or whatever. And I always said, yeah, you can see the curve, but what I saw was the circle of my vision.
Your own vision.
That's
Exactly.
what you see.
It's kind of like what we see when we launch a balloon up that high. We see the sky turn, to a dark.
Yeah, it was
kind of.
It was really cool looking. Man, I tell you, I believe there's some sort of containment. I think of firmament. I remember flying out over Turkey, eastern Turkey, going into northern Iraq. Back in the day, Bob, making mark because
I got another one.
Because I owe you. We would go out. It's about an hour drive from where we were, and go up to about 30,000 feet. It's so dark because there's no lights out in the eastern Turkey. I don't even know if they have electricity out there, but you turn off all the cockpit lights and just look up, and you could see I don't know. I called them micrometeors at the time. I don't know what it was, but it was just kind of like little sparkles. It was so beautiful. And man, I wish I knew then what I know now. Because
you'd be looking at it in a whole different way, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it was fascinating then. And when I finally got into night vision goggles, which was later on, man, you see something all the time.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, yeah, and I haven't ever flown that high, but it's interesting to hear you say that it looks like there's a bunch of sparkles up there because, I've been looking at the firmament, and I'm a big believer in the firmament. I mean, to me, there's no way that it can't be there. It must be there. There's
those rockets
mountains of evidence for it. Yeah, there's a ton of evidence for it. And, our sky is very, very much electrical. And so... Yeah, I just, when you said that, when you have all these sparkles up there, you're probably seeing kind of like miniature meteor showers sort of up there, up close and personal.
Like electrical discharges, probably.
Very much so. That's what meteors actually are. They're not.
Yeah. Yeah, not what you always thought it was.
No, it is not what they tell us it is. That's ridiculous. I mean, none of these meteors ever hit the ground either. And, you know, we have some of the biggest meteor divots, you know, in the earth. And where's the meteor? They'll come up with something that maybe weighs 20 kilograms or 30 kilograms.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Yeah.
So you're going to say that this 30 kilogram rock made this 2 mile? Come on, give me a break.
If you make the numbers big enough, you have to believe them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what they do. If they can't dazzle you with brilliance, they baffle you with bullshit, because that is the formula.
It is, yeah. That's kind of been the way I've lived my life, but I'm not doing that now, I swear.
One other question I wanted to ask you on my list anyway was with respect to low altitude flying. You've done some of that as well. And what speeds, any adjustments you actually have to make for the curvature, things like that.
Yeah, that kind of gets me into a I'll answer your question like this. The whole argument about airplanes having to nose over to follow the curve, I don't like that argument, because I can't get my mind around it, because obviously I never did that. I've got 3 ocean crossings, okay, in the F-16. You never lived until you take a single engine airplane over that far over the water, and you just quit looking at the engine instruments because you don't want to know. I had one oil pressure fluctuation one time that was right on the limits, and it just bugged the hell out of me. I finally put my checklist in front of me, so I'm not going to look at that anymore. But anyway, I'm answering your question, I swear. Never nosed over in 10, 11 hours of flight, right? But I think that there could be an argument that, you know, all altitude is what the altitude readout on your altimeter. To be in straight and level flight, you're just in a pressure differential from where you took off, right? I mean, you set an altimeter 2992 once you get above 10,000 feet, and you fly that altitude. Well, you always got, at your cruising airspeed, there's always some AOA set, right? Angle of attack. So you're never nose pointing longitudinally parallel to the horizon. You're usually, you know, in some attitude like this was a certain amount of AOA. And, you know, who's to say I'm not trimmed up to follow that pressure gradient?
Well, I can tell you why. I can tell you why.
Well, I'm sure you can, Bob.
Because I have.
I just don't like the argument, because I can't get my head around it and argue it concisely, right?
Right. Well,
I'm sure
first of all, the reason that you never, you know, had to make the adjustment for it is because it's not
the earth
there.
is flat.
All right.
I get that. I know that.
That's the no-brainer part of it.
I get it.
Secondly, the gyroscopes, the gyroscopic claim to fame is, of course, rigidity in space. And of course, you know, and I did this. I actually took a gyro on a plane, commercial flight to Maui from Denver, right? And I think I calculated something like 35. I can't remember what it was, that it should have actually rolled over or precessed, and of course it didn't, and yet you can put them on like a 7-day recorder, which is something as low as a 1.2 degree per hour, change of angle. And of course, remember, they're trying to tell us that gyroscopes, well, they're never sensitive enough to pick up the 15 degrees per hour. Not only is that complete nonsense, but we were actually able to do it at 1.2 degrees per hour, and we did it with incredible accuracy. So regardless of, you know, whether or not you would notice it or you would see anything in your rate of climb indicators, the gyroscope is going to register that pitch change, point blank. There's no way around it.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, the flight path marker is on the horizon whenever you're straight and level, and it was there all the time, and, you know, I've got attitude hold on. So let me go further with my answer to this question, though.
Okay.
I see where this comes into play at low altitude over the water, very low altitude over the water at high speeds. And I have been there. I have done very low altitude above the water in protected airspace or northern Iraq. It's near the Mach, 0.95 Mach. And I feel that if you were flying at .95 Mach is roughly 9.5 miles a minute. That was our planning factor. Mach 1 is 10 miles a minute. It's not really, but it's close. So at 9.5 miles a minute, I think I probably would have had to be a little bit light in the seat to stay very low, right?
Yes.
To
Yes.
hug the water, and that didn't happen. And I did that for quite a while over a lake for probably 20 miles.
Yeah.
And some poor hapless fisherman that happened to be in my flight path probably suffered for it. And to him, I apologize.
Okay, so I'm actually going to share screen on this because we did this earlier. Let's see. There's that. Okay, now this is something I showed you earlier, and I actually did this a demonstration using the Boeing 737's cruise speed, right? And if it flies for 1 minute, basically it goes 8.6 miles. The curvature z-axis in that 1 minute, it drops 49 feet. Z-axis in miles 0.0094. Basically, I just put it on there. So the average foot per minute drop would be 49.8336, right? Then I decided to do it. Well, let's just double the speed of that, because it just so happens that if you double the speed of a 737, it turns out to be exactly the rotational speed of the Earth, right? And of course, you can see what happens there. But the big thing is that when you start looking at these things, going over a certain amount of area over so much time, we're looking at an average here. Note it says average foot per minute drop. So if we go 15 miles, we're getting a 747 per foot per minute average drop. And
Yeah,
I'll tell you what,
15 minutes. Yeah.
That's insane, right? There's no way that you would never be able to. Now, average would also mean that you would have to have a lot lighter than that. But at some point, as you're going over, right, you're going to be coming, damn near straight down, or it would seem like it. And so this is actually how the math works out on the z-axis. And we know this doesn't happen, but yet the geometry absolutely demands it. So now what they're doing is they are coming out and they're saying, well, then what's happening is the 8 inches per mile squared is not accurate, and the problem with it is because it is being calculated based on a parabola. And of course, my response to that is, let me go back over to here, is this, okay? So, and in fact, Dave Weiss is having a discussion against some scientists, physicists with Eddie Bravo. And he said, well, what do you do with these people? They're denying all of the 8 inches per mile square measurements. And I told him, I said, David, just tell him to do the math. And then to tell him what he gets, ask him what he gets for these distances as far as curvature. And you can compare it then to 3 different methodologies that I put out here. 8 inches per mile squared using the Sagitta or AutoCAD, okay? And as you can see, these things are all really good. Even if you go up to 500 miles, 31.53 miles, 31.57, 31.7, it's just a couple of tenths off, right, as far as curvature. So it's good now. At 500 miles, even at 1,000 miles, we're no more than a mile off, right? So they cannot deny this. I mean, it checks out in every conceivable mathematical permutation, right? It just is what it is, and you cannot take that away from it. And so now they're trying to, first they denied that, the horizon existed, right? The geometric horizon. Well, you can't see it. Now they're denying the 8 inches per mile squared. Well, then all I can say to that is, then tell us what it should be and prove it. And they'll never be able to do that, right? So that's why, I just think that it's amazing the excuses that they come up with, right, to try and shut these arguments down. But, that is what this is based on, just simply by the 8 inches per mile squared. And when you look at these numbers, of course they're absurd. They're absurd because we're not on a globe, because to even remotely come to anywhere near these foot per minute drops over this period of time is complete ludicrous, right? It's lunacy. So, that's what I say to that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. That's for sure. It's just a really hard thing to get your mind around. But so is the air being stuck to the spinning ball in the column all the way to infinity.
That's another one.
I mean, how did I ever believe that? I mean, Lord.
And every time it's ever put to the test, it always comes up the wrong direction, right?
Gravity. It's just gravity.
It's gravity. Yeah, it's amazing.
That's what gravity.
So that's that's what I have to say about it, and I'm really happy that you have come forward and talked about this, because this, I'm sure, is going to motivate other people to come forward, and maybe even.
Well, I hope so. Depends on what happens to me after this.
Well, the trolls are going to be the trolls. They're going to do their job. But
there's nothing they can do.
There's nothing they can do really, other than they can preach to their choir, and their choir can say rah rah rah. Yeah, that guy's no pilot, no way. Yeah, he's a dumbass. He doesn't have any idea.
Pilots aren't that stupid. They're not that ugly. They're not that short. They're really not that fat. Well, I wasn't a pilot. I wasn't fat 20 years ago, so leave me alone. There is one more thing that I want to cover before we break this up. And this is not going to be popular with everybody, but I have good news. There is really good news about chemtrails. Every single chemtrail that you see in the sky isn't necessarily spraying on you, because I can tell you for 100% certain, contrails are a real thing. I don't know that. I think some people, the way I hear them talk and, I see them in chats or whatever, that, they're just spraying everywhere. It's not always spraying. I've made lots of them. Forecasters can predict at what flight level they'll be, because we need to avoid them. Like in those air-to-air setups I was talking about before, you don't want to expose yourself at 50 miles so a guy can just go, there he is.
Exactly.
Without even having a radar lock, they see you. So we make contrails all the time. My only point is, every mark in the sky that you see, it's not necessarily spraying. I know that they've admitted, we've seen they do, but not everything is. So maybe that takes a little bit of pressure off of that. And I feel like I would be remiss in not saying that, because I've made contrails myself.
That's good, and actually that makes sense. And obviously the contrails have everything to do with temperature and humidity. And the interaction of the exhaust with it. And you're right, not every mark up there is a contrail.
Well,
I mean, and not only
leave
that,
it to Bob to break it down to know exactly what causes it. I just know my hot stuff coming out the back, it makes clouds. That's all I know.
That's right. Yeah, but you're right. It's not 100% all the time. So I agree with you completely on that. And people do get a little bit overzealous, I think. They'll see that and they'll go, oh God, they're spraying. And it's like, well, no, not exactly. And, to me, I've looked at them for over 20 years now, and there's a distinct difference. To me, the real ones, the authentic ones, are very obvious. But not everybody really looks at them the way I do, I suppose. So
I live out here in the middle of nowhere, so they don't spray. They don't bother spraying me. They already know I'm whacked up.
Yeah. And
anyway,
I still have. Yeah, it's good. And honestly, I still haven't figured out exactly what the whole purpose behind that is. I mean, there could be several reasons for it. I still tend to believe it has something to do with creating an ideal medium for holography. But, I could be completely wrong on that. But at this point, I just don't know. So I'll leave it at that.
Testing things, too. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Cujo, I got to tell you, man, I really appreciate it. And I hope, maybe we can have you join us on another show sometime. We'd love to have you come on Globebusters and maybe join a panel one day. Or
I'm nowhere near smart enough for Globebusters. Come on. I listen to Wits It Gets It, man, and that dude is on another level for me.
Yeah, he is.
He's too, really. I think Ben and I might be able to have a conversation over in the corner. As long as he doesn't start talking lawyer on me, I'll be all right.
Yeah. Ben's no dummy either, believe me. I think all the guys on the Globebusters team are pretty smart. So it's a good group of guys.
So I agree, 100%. I was laid up for a few years and was able to deep dive into things. I caught up on a lot of episodes of Globebusters and all of Ben's stuff. that was it was a good opportunity. So you guys, like I said, were my TV for a number of years. So I've been talking to my celebrities.
Awesome. Well,
it's been so awesome to talk with you, Mike, and thank you so much for doing this. I actually feel bad for the coming trolls that are going to be attacking you, and all I can say is I'm sorry, but it's not my fault. But
I know it's coming, but I probably won't even look, to be honest. So they can knock themselves out. I don't care. I'm not going to look. I know my truth. I know you guys know who I am. So.
Yes, and we do too. We got the grand tour, and there is no doubt in my mind you are exactly who you say you are. None. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you.
That's awesome. All right, beautiful. Well, I guess we'll just wrap it up then on that, and Ben can do his magic with this thing, and we'll put this thing out. I think Ben, what he usually does is he'll do his editing, and if we add anything to it, and then he'll run it by Hugh to make sure that everything is cool in there, that you're agree with all of it, and then
I'll be honest right now, I don't see much there to edit. I mean, it's kind of I like it the way it is. I mean,
I do too. It's pretty good.
Is there anything that you said in this that you would like me to re-examine?
Back in the day,
add a couple of back in the days in there, just get it up to $10.
Yeah, I'll be looking for those donations on Rockfin.
What was the total? If you don't call me out, I'll be pissed.
There's only 3 of them. There's only 3 of them, so there you go.
3 back in the day and 2 woofies.
Yeah, 2 woofies.
All right,
okay.
so I owe you $5. You watch it.
Right. Fair enough.
All right, man. And it's my honor to talk to you guys. I don't want to stop because I never get to talk to anybody about Flat Earth. As a matter of fact, I try to go as much time as possible without seeing another human being other than my brother and my wife. So, I don't get off the farm very often these days.
Yeah, I understand. Well, you know what? You have my phone number and Skype, and feel free to contact me anytime. Yep. And
you'll be sorry, Bob. I'm gonna be calling you up. Hey, Bob, I was thinking about this thing the other day.
Or is it globe, mate?
It's flat.
This is flat. Thank you very much, mate. God bless.
A man asked the pilot if the Earth is flat.
Can I talk to the pilot, please?
Right here.
You're the pilot?
Hi.
How long have you been flying for?
For Delta, 21 years, but maybe 30 something.
I want to know, because they say the pilots know a lot. Do you think the Earth is flat or no?
I know it's flat.
You know it's flat? How long have you been flying for, you said?
Over 30 years.
And when you tell people that, do they think you're crazy or no?
Only one person.
Only one person?
Yeah.
Are you a pilot?
Yes, sir.
One question.
Okay.
When you descend in the air,
yeah,
do you dip or do you go straight?
It's straight.
Straight?
A little more with the nose out. That's it.
But straight. You don't dip into the...
No.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You're welcome, sir.
Have a great day.
Did you notice any curvature while we were up there?
Curvature? No.
No? There's no curvature?
It's just all flat.
The pilot. Is the Earth flat or round?
Flat.
Thanks. I'm with you.
Because they tell us, that at least in the U.S., the ground's moving at about 700 miles an hour left to right. And I was thinking that's kind of odd if you're landing going north, or moving in the north direction.
That's not, no. The ground looks to us like it's standing still.
Yeah, not an issue, huh?
Yeah, no. You could probably see the Rockies from Kansas.
Wow.
But it's a clear day, but if it's smoky or hazy, obviously we can't see.
Excuse me, guys.
Hey.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
One of us can answer it.
You guys adjust for curvature as you're flying through the air? The Earth is supposed to be a ball, right?
Yeah.
So should we be dipping down the nose of the plane to compensate for the curvature, or do you guys
Long answer. It's a long answer.
or do you fly on over a flat plane?
Well, we're about a millimeter over a bowling ball. We're not that high.
8 inches per mile squared is the official story of what the curvature drop should be. So a distance that far, if you're 8 inches from the shore on a beach, and your friend is rowing his boat out 1 mile away, the boat should be already hidden by the curvature. You guys don't see curve; you see horizon at eye level.
No, I mean, if you look at more of a axis curvature of the Earth. We're on, the perpendicular. We're just on that tangent.
So
and
really,
that never changes.
Earth's flat.
Sorry?
Earth is flat.
Yeah, we know that. We've seen it every day.
Flat and stationary.
Exactly. Everybody else.
Well, you know that. You guys see the horizon at eye level, and you have to understand that if you're on a ball, as you rise from the ball, you would have to look down to see the horizon.
Yeah.
You don't ever see that. I look out the window of the plane, and I see horizon as far as I can see, flat.
Looks different from the front.
Even from there. Your windows aren't that much different. Earth is flat. It's a big lie. You guys should look into it. You know it's flat. You guys fly over it every day.
We're not allowed to tell anybody that.
I know.
Do you say that it's flat?
Yes.
Yeah? Thank you very much.
Is there any more pilots up here, or is it just you?
Just me.
Just you. I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
When you're up there, come on, cruising altitude, do you all have to adjust for any curvature of the Earth while you're up there?
Great question. No.
You don't?
But I know of.
Because my understanding is you're like on pretty much like a parallel sort of flight, other than takeoff and landing, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess it's more vertical. So we're not curving at all. So we're just going straight up, like 40, 20 degrees maybe.
Right.
Level off, and I never thought about how the atmosphere works with the curve in the Earth and all that stuff.
Well, if you think about it, I've done some research on it. There's a formula, 8 inches per mile squared is what the curve is supposed to be. Spherical trigonometry. And if it was actually that formula, we would have to dip the nose a half a mile every minute to stay around the ball. So I just wanted to ask you, as someone who's up there, the plane doesn't do it automatically. You're not adjusting anything, right?
No, not
It's just flying straight. I even talked about it in 30 years I've been flying.
Yeah, it's funny to think about.
So maybe the gases move with it. Yeah.
Well, that's what I've heard as a working theory. Is some people think that gravity or does something for you, but I mean, I guess the common question goes back to is like, how many parallel flights does it take for you to go around in a circle?
Very interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Take a look into it.
Yeah, we're going to start doing that.
Yeah, all right, man. Have a good one. Hey, guys, you mind if I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So, when y'all are flying up there, do you account at all for the curvature of the Earth?
Well, we do when we do what we call getting directs. Our navigation system off of we have IRS's internal revenue initial reference system.
Just do your taxes?
That the airplane, it can do itself.
So it does it itself?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if we lose our GPSs, but we also use GPS satellite and we use ground based. And when we go direct, we no longer fly direct to a point. We arc, because believe it or not, because of the marble, it's closer to arc to a point than it is to fly straight.
So if the Earth is 25,000 miles in circumference, we have a curvature of 8 inches per mile squared.
I'm going to take your word
Ride
on
with
that.
me.
I believe you.
If we're riding at about 500 miles an hour, roughly 35,000 feet, in order to stay over that, the plane would have to dip a half a mile a minute. Do you know what that would feel like up here?
No.
It would feel like a lot of dipping.
Are you going to launch satellites when you, or do you do
No,
that?
but I know people that actually launch we launch high altitude balloons.
Very cool.
120,000 feet, level plane.
So say that again. In order to stay at the same altitude.
Right. So if it's a 25,000 mile circumference ball, 8 inches per mile squared is the formula. It's spherical trigonometry. You have to kind of go do the math to make sure it works out. But if you're traveling at that speed, we would have to dip a half a mile a minute just to stay over that. So it would honestly be like we were kind of dipping all the time. And as you all know, the nose is slightly up, flying level. So my question is like, how many level flights does it take to go around the ball? We're not curving on the way to France. We're not curving on the way to New York.
We are.
Are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the forces equal out, right? Like the gravity, the gravitational force.
All right, now is the plane doing it or is gravity doing it? Because now we got two different things.
I'm saying
gravity. All right, one more and I'll let you guys go. The Earth is moving at east to west, 1,000 miles an hour, right?
I'll take your word for it.
What's it like landing on a runway north and south if that runway is moving 1,000 miles an hour east?
Well, we're moving 1,000 miles east.
We're moving with the Earth? So the only thing independent of the Earth's spin is sniper bullets, not balloons and airplanes. Think about it.
I love it, man.
Think about it.
All right, bro.
Your experience will tell you you're flying over a stationary plane. Just forget what you're taught. Just get the wheels turning. Y'all have a good day.
See you, man.
Did you notice any curvature while we were up there?
No.
No? What'd you see while we were up there?
This is the blue sky, white clouds.
Yeah, is it flat or?
Pretty flat.
Pretty flat?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Captain, someone wants to say hi, is that okay?
Oh.
Do you adjust for curvature when you get up to a certain altitude?
Well, yeah, when you see the sun coming up on the horizon, but I don't know if you will.
But the plane stays at an even pitch throughout the whole flight?
Yeah.
So, I mean, not too much curvature to count for?
No.
More flat than anything?
Nope, you close your eyes, you won't have a clue.
True. More flat than anything?
What was that?
It's more flat than anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Flat or a ball?
Flat. Oh, it's a ball.
I think it's flat. Yeah, me too. Pretty flat to me. It certainly does, doesn't it? And you've got that flat in.
Excuse me, do you mind?
Hey, how you doing? Very well. How are you? Good. So you know how we just took a flight of descent? Yeah. Did you have to compensate for curvature? Yeah. So did you just have to compensate for curvature due to the flight of descent as we landed just now? No, not necessarily. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. You bet.
So the pilot just told me that the Earth is flat.
Hey, I just want to say thanks for the smooth flight.
All right.
I did have one question. Is there like a specific angle of downward tilt you have to fly at?
3 degrees.
3 degrees for the curvature of the Earth?
Oh, for the Earth?
Because,
No, we just fly over the troposphere.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have to keep like kind of going down because?
No, they actually have to nose up. They fly.
Really? Because I was reading some stuff on the flat Earth that made a lot of sense. Have you looked into it?
Which one? Sorry?
I was reading a lot of stuff on the flat Earth.
Okay, yeah. True.
It's true?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, cool.
All
Hey,
right.
God bless, brother.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
I'm a fellow, Casey Josh, I'm a fellow just PPL pilot here.
Yeah, nice.
I've got a couple of serious questions to ask you.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, there's a big time. Curvature.
Curvature?
Yeah.
Yep.
We don't allow for curvature, do we?
Yeah, for anything, not for you usually.
No, we're round, we're a disc, aren't we? Round and flat.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hey, look, honestly, quite seriously,
Yeah.
we are, aren't we?
Yeah.
Can I ask them a quick question?
Sure.
Excuse me. Can I ask you a quick question? Of course. Do you guys account for any curvature of the Earth? Do you guys fly with the nose down or anything?
It's actually a good question, and these boxes that are here actually do compensate for that. We don't do anything about. I mean,
okay.
It is in these two boxes.
Oh, because
they actually do compensate for that.
Really? Because I've read that these guys actually fly with the nose up.
It is. It's up about anywhere from 1.5 to about 2 degrees.
So you fly with the nose up.
Yeah. Not. I mean, 1.5 to 2 degrees is not much, but it is up.
So that means there's no curve because you would be flying with the nose down.
Oh, that's. Yeah, but I mean, it's as it's moving, but yeah, that makes sense.
You guys know it's
So
flat, right?
The 78, right?
So what's 78?
The 787 actually flies flat though.
Okay, so the 787 flies flat, but you guys fly with the nose up.
On this?
Yeah.
Well, not every single minute, but yeah. If we're accelerating, it's flat, right?
Right.
All the time.
About all the time.
So there's nothing being compensated at that.
Never nose down.
Only when we're descending.
Never nose down.
Yeah. I mean, we do come nose down.
When you have to come down.
Yeah.
But if the Earth was a globe, you'd have to be nose down all the time, right?
You're asking.
I think it would be less nose up.
Yeah, I don't know if I have the answer.
You guys are nose up. I appreciate you getting us safe here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Thank you. Sorry. Woo. I am so glad you could join me. Now, this started off with a message from James Hollywell. He wanted me to look at a video of an SR-71 pilot claiming to see more than he should be able to see if the Earth was in fact a ball. And I told James after watching the video that I would need the pilot's name and I would need to verify this story simply because in the past I have used other people's information and found it turned out to be false. And I don't want to mislead anybody, folks. So I super double check now before I make any video. And so James went to work and I went to work and he found the pilot name and I went to where he got the article at Aviation Direct Easy Plan. And I said, this story, a real account from a real SR-71 pilot or just a spoof? And I got a reply from a pilot, Jeffrey Peterman. He says, real deal, story from SR-71 pilot, backseater did all the talking. And so then I just replied, thank you very much, Jeffrey, amazing aircraft. And so now I'm going to play you the part of what the pilot says, and then we're going to analyze his distances and show you that, in fact, the Earth is not a globe. Air Force Major Brian Schul is the pilot of the SR-71 on this day, and his co-pilot is Walter, who is in the back of the plane working all the radio equipment. And so I checked this out on Air and Space to get the pilot's name and to verify the story.
Be an SR-71 pilot. Walter and I were doing a training mission around the United States where you just were building up hours and time. And we take off out of Beale, hit a tanker in Idaho, rip on up to Montana, zip across Denver, hang a right turn in Albuquerque, out over Los Angeles, up to Seattle, back into Sacramento, 2 hours, 21 minutes. And you just do that then you do it backwards, and you hit a tanker or two. It was just to gain crew coordination, build your hours. We're on our last training mission. We're over Tucson. I can see downtown LA from Tucson. We're at 89,000 feet. I can see the whole western United States bathed in a warm October fall glow.
SR-71 Air Force pilot Brian Schul states that he was flying above Tucson, Arizona at 89,000 feet, and he was able to see Los Angeles and the whole western seaboard. Now, of course, this is not possible if the Earth is in fact a spinning ball, because Brian Schul's max view distance would have only been 365 miles, Los Angeles being covered up by 9,970 feet of curved Earth. Let's continue.
I can see the chain of Rocky Mountains from Canada to New Mexico.
Oh, what was that, Brian? Did you just say you could see all the Rocky Mountains from New Mexico to Canada?
I can see the chain of Rocky Mountains from Canada to New Mexico.
I guess Brian did say that. So, from the tip of New Mexico to the very edge of Canada is 1,150 miles. Now, I'm assuming Brian was still flying over Tucson when he saw the Rocky Mountains, but even if he wasn't and was in the middle of the Rocky Mountains, his max view distance would not allow him to see either New Mexico or Canada, simply because the Earth is supposed to be curved. If Brian was still flying over Tucson, Arizona, and saw the Rockies extend from New Mexico to Canada, that's 77 miles of missing curved Earth. If he was in the center of the Rockies, he still only has a max view at 365 miles at 89,000 feet. Folks, throw your globes in the trash, wipe the tears away. The Earth is flat, proven by the United States Air Force.